If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here.
This is why white supremacy is on the rise in the Conservative Party. He's unwilling to even acknowledge that there's a problem. They at least say, we have all these problems. It's very difficult to be able to afford things. This is an issue. Housing is an issue. Healthcare, blah, blah, blah. They just blame it on immigrants. That's stupid. Obviously, it's rich people's fault. Ben is just like, no, man, this is just how it is. Your mom and dad worked in Hollywood and you were born rich. You don't know shit. In this conversation, the biggest constant that I think that people need to understand is there is such an insanely small difference between Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes. They all hate the same groups of people. They're all isolationists. They all blame everything on the left. They all blame everything on minorities. The only difference is that Ben Shapiro doesn't want Jewish people in the crossfire. All right, guys, I'm curious about this. It's Ben Shapiro. It talks about Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and Zoran Mohamdani, which is a little strange. Those three, I understand the first two are more associated, but okay. I'm just curious about it because I see a lot of infighting with the conservatives. The second that they became socially in power, it has been massive. I don't think I've seen this much infighting in like the progressive sphere ever, even when things were super toxic. So it's actually very interesting. But it's been very quickly, like the downfall is like imminent. Conservatives are already fracturing massively. This feeling of like we have to agree with everything or not publicly criticize the other person has gone away the second that they got like in power. You know, so it's incredible.
The success of the Mamdani administration relies on him not being able to do anything that he says he's going to do.
What?
You haven't held a real job your entire life. Your entire life. I have a more successful rap career than Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, I'm warming up.
Having grown up in the lap of luxury in a country to which his parents immigrated, like he's been given the best of America, and his solution is America sucks and is terrible.
Trump came into America. It's had his entire life handed to him. What are you talking about?
So we've got this increasingly...
I don't know. His ideas seem like decent. We'll see what happens. I mean, everybody complains every day about how fucking terrible... Oh, this is horrible. About how terrible... New York is, and then it's like, oh, let's vote for somebody that represents something different. Oh no, we can't do it.
Democratic Socialists of America movement on the left. We also now are seeing a civil war on the right. He's hosted a whole number of people that clearly are pushing a particular worldview. I think that's fair to say.
Sure, and he got fired from Fox for knowingly lying about voter fraud, so that was cool.
What do you think he's up to with that?
And I think that is an easy path to ensuring that you, quote unquote, don't lose people, but I don't think that it's a good path for not losing the country. If you are widely perceived in America as a pro-Nazi party, that actually is not a great electoral approach.
The fact that it needs saying.
Right, no, but that's where we are.
I guess.
Relax. This is not an ad. If you're not a fan of ads, but love
It sounds like an ad.
trigonometry, join the thousands of trigonometry.
This is an ad for trigonometry
members who get extended interviews, no ads, early access, and the ability to submit their own questions for upcoming guests.
Oop, that was dumb.
Sign up now at triggerpod.co.uk or click the link in the description of this episode. Ben Shapiro, welcome back to Trigonometry.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There's not a lot going on right now for us to talk about.
Just boring, just super boring.
We're sitting here in New York on the day after Zoran Mamdani was elected, so let's start with that.
Yeah, the purge is outside.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's just chaos in the streets.
Well, as you know, both Francis and I have some experience with communism, so it's good to be back.
Again, I just always find it so funny. We talk about like, oh, communism. I mean, he wants to. Again, his stuff might not work, but I mean, it's basically the same as like every other of our Western allies. Like, hey, let's do some kind of free healthcare and maybe a grocery store that is like government run, so they don't charge as much. And it's like, you know, military bases have government run government run grocery stores, and they pay like 27% of the. I think that they, on average, they get like a 27% reduction in the cost of groceries. And it's like, isn't that a good thing, especially right now?
But joking aside, what do you make of the fact that this has happened?
I think that there are cycles of history, and people don't remember things that have happened in the past, and so they tend to repeat the same mistakes.
Like what?
I think that we are now in a cycle of politics where perennial dissatisfaction is going to be the mode, meaning that we have an entire political class who are very invested in saying that a thing is the problem and then saying that they are the solution without actually offering any solutions.
Yeah, that's called the conservatives. I agree with that. But like, doesn't he have like a decent, I mean, what solution is he not offering?
And then it turns out the thing they said was a problem is still a problem when they're done. And then people say, well, you didn't solve the problem. I'm going to give the other guy a shot to solve the problem.
Not really. I mean, if you actually understand history, like what happened? We had a huge economic collapse, the worst recession since the Great Depression under Bush, right? Obama came in. He fixed the problem for the most part. He reduced the deficit. He cut the deficit in half from $1.3 trillion to $650 billion. He took a step towards better healthcare through the implementation of Obamacare. He set Trump up for a decent economy. Trump came in. He instantly just cut taxes because people are babies and they wanted a tax cut, but they didn't understand that the real problem is that the technology is displacing jobs and driving down wages. Trump inflates the annual federal deficit up to $1 trillion pre-COVID. Then COVID hits. So Biden comes in and he does a good job getting us through COVID, implementing infrastructure bills and acts and getting us into the right spot. Trump comes in and he's just been fucking around and being a stupid idiot the entire time instead of taking care of the actual issue, which is massive wealth hoarding, where you have people worth like, you know, $500 billion now. So like, I mean, like, sure, if you want to, you know, be really basic about it, you could say that. But like, for the most part, conservatives have no really interest in actually fixing any of the problems at all. Like what there, and Trump ran on no policy. Trump didn't even run on a policy. He just ran on maybe doing some stuff. But okay.
And I think that you're seeing that particularly with young voters. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this is the most right-wing young and then it'll be like, no, this is the most left-wing young generation. And all that can be true if you're just kind of shifting side to side. And so the fact that everyone's flattering Mamdani by saying, well, you know, he did talk a lot about affordability. And what I keep saying to people is, well, affordability is not like Beetlejuice, where if you just say it over and over, it suddenly arrives. You actually have to pursue policies that are likely to alleviate an affordability.
So what's your policy? Is your policy, what policy would Ben Shapiro support? Is it tax cuts for the rich? What's the policy?
Problem. But if your solution is always give me more power, and it does seem like that is the solution of the day from both sides, actually, then you're likely to just continue penduluming one side to the other. Because people don't want to learn the actual lesson, which is if you actually want affordability, then either you have to change policies or change locations. Those are really the only two things. And also, I think more broadly, it's not about affordability. We have trained an entire generation of people to believe that if their lives are not what they want them to be, it's the fault of systems.
Sure. There could be a level of truth to that. I think that there's probably a level of truth to some people thinking that, but the systems aren't good. Right. So like, it's one of those things where like people are bringing it up that like, hey, if I have a problem, it must be the system. Okay. And like, maybe they are being whiny little babies, but also like what systems are working? Not like our systems are like overall they are working. Let's be real. But like healthcare system is not great. I think we can afford to give everybody healthcare. When there are billionaires that exist, but people can't pay their fucking, you know, people don't have the money to even afford a home. That's an issue. When you're seeing massive, costs for housing and homes while you have things like BlackRock companies buying up houses, driving up the price artificially, you have a problem here. So like, you know, this sounds like you're saying there are no system issues. There are a lot of system issues here that can be fixed.
As opposed to decisions that are in their own control. And politicians absolutely have a stake in selling that. A lot of people in our industry have a stake in selling that. It makes people feel good about themselves and bad about the world. And the reality is, if you want a better life, you should feel better about the world and worse about yourself until you actually, you know, go do the right thing.
I broadly, generally speaking, as a matter of principle, agree with you, but
I can agree that people need to have a better frame of mind, but there's a lot of shit that's wrong. And like, just saying this is the reason why, like, there's a lot of issues when it comes to like the more established, well, we'll say more the established conservative perspective, because Ben is more of an established conservative. And right now, his entire argument is like, yeah, things really aren't that bad. So like that's why people are going to go and they're going to gravitate towards a like a white supremacist like Nick Fuentes, because like you guys aren't saying anything. You guys are just saying no, this is not real. You're not actually having a problem. But like at least they're willing to blame it on illegal immigrants, which is not good. They shouldn't be doing that. But like they're like, oh, the system is flawed. This is the reason. They're wrong, but at least they're acknowledging it's flawed. But you're like, yeah, no, things really aren't that bad. This is just kind of by design. It's like, oh, that's not really a powerful message that's going to resonate with anybody.
I mean, I was looking around at property prices, real estate prices in New York. I'm doing pretty well for myself. I feel kind of poor looking at those things.
Oh, no, it's unaffordable. And I'm not saying it's not affordable.
Right.
It absolutely
You're saying that it's okay that it's not affordable.
Absolutely is unaffordable. And if you wanted to make a political difference, what you would do is you would relieve the building regulations. You would make it easier for people.
No, you'd probably tax billionaires more. Where am I supposed to go here? I'm going to die. You'd probably get like rich people to pay more their fair share of taxes to alleviate some of these problems. You'd probably focus on the fact that like the MTA, has frankly far too much power, and they wasted a significant amount of money all the time doing dumbass bullshit. So
to build, not harder. You wouldn't rent control, because if you stop rent controlling, then that creates incentive for people to build. You would allow people to build up further. You would get rid of many of the code regulations.
we would be doing these things
That are kind of antiquated.
like what? Right now, there's like a huge issue of, you know, landlords just not deciding to keep things up to code. What are you talking about?
There are things you actually could do.
Why wouldn't one of the things you say to be like, yeah, you know, you would stop stop big businesses like BlackRock from existing and being able to, like, not just existing, but like taking buying up a bunch of homes and doing nothing with it. You would stop Airbnbs from existing because it could be more profitable for people to buy Airbnbs rather than actually rent out homes. Like, why are all your systems like deregulation? I don't think that deregulating landlords or anything like that is going to make anything better.
And then if you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is...
And who pays for things? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, just tell young people not to live here anymore? That's your whole big solution? Young people flee New York. So then you have an aging population. You have nobody to work the other jobs. What are you talking about? I think the demographic of Long Island alone has reduced. Like young people, I think it's been like 9% smaller, less young people living in New York now. Well, how is this a solution? What?
It's a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up, but the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that. The history of America is you go to a place where there is opportunity. And if the opportunities are limited here, and
that doesn't sound very family value oriented,
not changing, then you really should try to think about other places where you have better opportunities. Again, that's not saying that public policy can't.
Where? The problem here is that New York is going to have one of the best opportunities than anywhere else, right? So if you're telling me that there aren't opportunities for young people to work in New York, as much criticism as you want to give it, a massive economic area, if there aren't enough jobs for young people in New York, where do you go? Where do the jobs exist then? Like some poor state with no job infrastructure? The jobs should, if anything, the jobs should be in New York. It's New York. That's supposed to be the job place. New York, California, Texas, maybe Florida, like the areas that are generally contributing more to taxes than they take, from federal funding. You'd expect them to have more stuff going on. They would be more economically healthy. What? Why? Why would you? That's just unreasonable to me.
Can't change. I think it can, but I think that the solutions being offered are untenable.
Well, I sort of see the problem with what you're saying is that really doesn't.
Hey guys, you can't tax billionaires more, and then take that money and push it back through the economy, because that's what taxing billionaires is doing. When you tax rich people more and you take that money and you spend the money on things, what you're doing is you're creating jobs. You're making it so that people who are wealth hoarding have to spend some of the money that is basically irrelevant to them, because they don't even know it's there. It's just a number at a certain point for them. You forcefully take it and you forcefully take it through taxes and then you spend it so that the money goes through the economy, so that it creates more jobs. That's what you do.
Doesn't sound nearly as good as free stuff.
Correct. The third grade presidential campaign continues to win. It's undefeated, right? Free ice cream, free busing, free childcare, and free money.
What's wrong with free childcare? Oh, dude, this is great. Okay. You guys, what I find so funny is conservatives will sit and they will shit themselves about how immigration is taking over the demographic of the United States and all these bad things are happening and A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And then people are like, okay, how do we make it easier to have kids? And you're like, fuck off. If you don't want illegal immigrants here doing jobs, then why aren't you incentivizing people to have babies in the United States? Why aren't you incentivizing people to have kids? The best way to do that is like some kind of childcare program, which, by the way, takes money and gives it to other people in the form of a job of a childcare. Why wouldn't you want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. You guys aren't making any sense.
Paid for by somebody else. Well, what's likely to happen if Mamdani were to get his way, and he's not going? If
Mamdani got his way and it actually worked out of getting like a grocery stores that were less expensive because they removed some of the profit incentive by having the government run it. Or, I mean, what else does he want to do? He wants to like punish landlords for not being up to code and having like disgusting rat-infested apartments. I think things might be better. No? I think that we'd have a pretty good time. Well, if it works out, I don't know if we'll actually be able to implement it, but
I think that the success of the Mamdani administration relies on him not being able to do anything that he says he's going to do.
how does that work?
If those things happen that he wants to happen, he's going to empty out the city. It'll destroy the city. If
like what? Free buses? How is it going to empty out the city? I doubt people even use buses to a greater degree. What I think we need to do is we need to like somehow get rid of the fucking MTA because they just take advantage of like everybody's money. I remember there was like a huge scandal where they were like wasting funds. Yeah, there was like huge issues in the MTA. There was an LIRR employee who was paid around $461,000 in 2018. $344,000 of those dollars was overtime. More broadly, the total overtime spending at the NTA reached $1.3 billion. Like, there was massive fraud, waste, and abuse when it comes to these systems. Like, it's fucking... And part of it is because the MTA, from my understanding, is a private business that the government subsidizes. We kind of need to stop doing that. We need to stop having private businesses that the government subsidizes in some instances, and we need to just have the government run things. Some things. I think buses are one of those things that we could probably do. Okay? When it comes to busing, healthcare, industries of that nature, we need to stop having private entities doing these things, and we need to just have like the federal government or the state government just run them themselves. We already do it with like other things, like there's like water, the police. Like why are we doing this? Why are we paying middlemen to do stuff and basically waste money?
he doesn't get those things, then it'll be really pleasant for him politically. He'll be able to blame the system for not being able to get done what he wants to get done. So the problems will stay the problems, but he'll just rail against the. He'll be a perennial outsider, even as mayor.
Yeah, buses, rail rates, like all these different things. You could literally pay people the exact same amount of money that they're getting paid now, but just have the government run it, and it would be cheaper. That's it. I'm not saying the government is perfect, but like, do you think that this system is really working that well?
Isn't that the kind of the default position of populism, where if you're saying that the problem are the elites and you can't get things done because of the elites, that just strengthens your position, doesn't it?
100%. Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure the right now we have a populist government. Even if you want to say like, oh, I think Mamdani is a populist, that's fine. But like, why do you think populism is rising? Because people like Ben Shapiro support populists like Donald Trump, who say they want to do things with no actual plan because they sound good. We need to get rid of illegal immigrants. Like, okay, that's fine to want to crack down. What does he want to do? Just violate people's due process and like, attack people who've been here for decades that are just trying to do the right thing or checking in because they're here and they've been told like as long as they check in and do things right, they can stay. And he's trying to get rid of those people. He's calling them like terrible, saying they're eating cats and dogs and calling them all racist and or rapists and shit. Like, that's not the way that you operate with that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is his whole policy. Hey, we're not getting good deals with other countries. Okay, what do you want to do? We're just going to blanket tariff everybody for fun. Destabilize the economy. By the way, Trump's going to make $3 billion. He's already made $3 billion in 9 months. Oh, okay. What are we doing? Okay, we got nothing. You supported a populist person, and now you're complaining that populism is taking a hold? What does that even mean? It doesn't even make sense.
Absolutely. I mean, and then you say, if only I were given more power, I could do this. And then you don't do it. You say, well, because I needed more power. Like, if you'd just given me more power, that would have been awesome. One of the things I find really amusing about Mamdani, in kind of a cynical way, is when he does this, the coalition of the dispossessed, we're all going to come together, those of us with the bruised knuckles. And it's like, my dude, you haven't held a real job your entire life. Your entire life. I have a more successful rap career.
What has he not done as a job? Apparently he used to work as a housing counselor. Okay. Ben Shapiro's parents were both Hollywood TV company executives. Or his dad was a composer. His mom and dad both worked in Hollywood. His mother was a TV company executive, and his dad was a fucking composer. Ben Shapiro has soft-ass motherfucking hands. Like, your whole life was given to you through massive financial opportunities because your parents worked in Hollywood and were very affluent, and then you were able to make a career out of that. Okay, and you don't like that Zoran Mamdani, I guess he was a counselor and a musician, so he farted around a little bit. Okay, I mean, cool. What do you want? What do you want me to tell you? Okay. Then he got into politics as a campaign manager. That's a job. So he started doing house counselor. Then he was a musician, probably jerking himself off. Then he started to work in politics as a campaign manager. What do you mean he doesn't have a decent? He seems like he has a fine work history. I don't understand what the issue is here. You guys have like hate boners for these people.
Zoran Mamdani, and I'm not even joking. That's true, right? Like Zoran Mamdani is a failed rapper. He was a person who didn't hold a real job. He got elected to the assembly and ditched half of his votes, and now he's mayor of
He was a fucking campaign manager. What are you talking about?
New York, having grown up in the lap of luxury in a country to which his parents immigrated. Like he's been given the best of America, and
Bro, your fucking parents were Hollywood fucking executives. What is happening here?
his solution is America sucks and is terrible. And so now I'm going to quote Eugene Debs and Nehru in my inauguration speech, in my victory speech, which is what he did. Which, you know, again, that's a take, but it just underscores one of the sort of fascinating things about revolutionary movements is they're very rarely led by members of the proletariat. They're very often led by, I would say, unsatisfied members of the bourgeoisie who then decide they must be the vanguard of the proletariat.
All right. I mean, sure, there's a criticism. But then, like, what is the other side? So basically, what you're saying is that people, there are people in the proletariat. There are people in like the fortunate class, the class of fortunate people. And there's the ones that want to keep it the same, and the ones that say that they want to change it. Maybe those people are lying, or maybe they're being serious. I mean, what's your issue? I don't understand. What's the issue?
And it's so interesting, the young people's obsession with socialism, having seen
Socialism, bro. It's like you guys can't even like accurately say what people are talking about. It's not socialism. It really isn't. Are you fucking kidding me? It's not socialism. It's just like it's the same shit that's exists in like every other country that's successful. Hey, we want some health care. We want, like, what are you saying? We want affordability in healthcare. That's socialism. If socialism is affordability in healthcare, then I guess I'm a socialist. Like, what is that? What does that mean?
socialism be implemented in Venezuela.
Like, these people get so triggered by the word socialism, and they're like, oh, yeah, socialism is so bad. Venezuela, Cuba, blah, blah, blah. They never talk about Germany. They never talk about Denmark. They never talk about Switzerland. They never talk about Canada. They don't really talk about those things because it's not convenient to be like, oh, yeah, these would be considered the democratic socialists because they just have health care and better regulation policies that make their people happier year over year. They don't acknowledge those things. Those things don't exist to them. It's just like fucking magic in their pants. It's honestly, it's unhinged. It's like strange, unhinged behavior. It's just bizarre.
And then
it's lazy. It's intellectually lazy.
It being championed and lionized by particularly people of the British left, the Jeremy Corbyns of the world, etc., etc. And I've given up trying to explain the evils of socialism and communism to young people because I had a Cuban friend, who said, Francis, it's like a magic trick. And until you see the reveal, you ain't going to get the trick. And you need to see the reveal. And that's kind of what it's like, isn't it?
I think that's right, because it's so unthinkable. Like, if you say to people, well, look at Venezuela. You say, well, it's not going to be like Venezuela here. Are you kidding? Like how? Like how? And the reality is it happens pretty suddenly. It's like the transition from, you know, democratic capitalism to socialism.
Democratic capitalism? What does that mean?
Does happen very quickly. I mean, once the government has the power to do these things, they do implement them very fast. And so,
what are these things? Why are you so vague? You mean have healthcare?
What was unthinkable becomes suddenly just reality. And so most Americans also don't understand.
It's always so interesting when you have really rich people who don't have to worry about their healthcare costs that are telling you that like it would be really bad if we implemented healthcare that would be more affordable for you. They can afford to spend 10 times the amount of money that they spend on healthcare and not have to think about it. That's where Ben Shapiro, that's the world that he lives in. And he tells you that like we're going to have an entire system collapse if your healthcare goes down in cost because we lean onto the government to provide it in the same way we lean onto the government to provide police, fire departments, and a ton of other industries already. But like if it's the healthcare industry, we're fucked. It's like, oh, what's that based on? Oh, nothing. It's not based on anything. He's just saying that to scare you because that's all they really have at this point is being super duper scary.
Understand how it is that we became wealthy. They don't understand how we became a very prosperous country. They tend to think that how things are is the natural state of being, that wealth and prosperity and the nice things we have and these great new products every year and being able to order things on Amazon. Like that's why, you know, one of my favorite comedy routines is Louis C.K. has this whole comedy routine about people complaining about flying in planes.
The guy that was like non-consensually jerking off in front of women. That's a good one to quote.
Where he's like, you know, we're all complaining, oh, it's just terrible, the conditions. Like, Your grandparents would have had to travel for 3 months to get from point A to point B, and you're doing it in 6 hours in a magical machine that flies in the sky.
And meanwhile, you guys complain about billionaires paying a little more taxes and how that's like horribly oppressive. Dude, are you kidding me? So I'm failing to see the difference. You guys, you know, like young people, this is the thing, is that young people are very annoying. Young people are very annoying. And one of the reasons young people are very annoying is because young people are smarter than the rest of us. Whether you like it or not, they're annoying. They're not necessarily right, but they're annoying, but they're smart. That's the problem. And they have answers to things that you don't have answers to. Because back in the day, you know, you learned, like, if mom says to do this, then you just do it without a question. That's it. That's what you learned. That's what you learned. And, like, you're getting frustrated with trying to give them an answer. That's really what it comes down to. So when they say something like, hey, healthcare is really expensive. Like my wife and I, we pay $15,000 a year between our premium and our out-of-pocket. And you're like, whoa, that's just how it's supposed to be. Because that's what your fucking dad told you, because he was lazy. He didn't want to explain things to you because he didn't respect you as a kid. Okay, but now there's a higher burden on the way that you treat your children. You have to fucking talk to them like they're fucking people. And then when they give you a good answer, back in the day, you just smack them in the mouth and be like, stop back talking me. Don't sass me, little boy. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you can't do that or you get arrested for beating your fucking kid. So you just get pissed off and go, this is just how it's supposed to be. And you just fucking like prattle on and like act all superior, even though like you've gone through your life through a massive, well, you've gone through your life. Your fucking parents were goddamn fucking like rich Hollywood people. So, I mean, you're operating in just a different capacity than most of the rest of us. It's just stupid. Like, you guys just don't want to be bothered to like talk to young people because you just find them to be annoying and cringe, and they are, but that doesn't mean that they're not smart.
And you're sitting here complaining about that, but that's kind of human nature. Is what you see in your daily life is what you accept as the norm. And we do have these things called, you know, airplanes that actively are time machines. You can fly to other places on Earth that don't have the things that we have, and you can look at the systems they've implemented.
Well, they probably can't do that because it's expensive for them to do that, Ben, because they don't have enough money to afford their house.
You can see why they don't have.
Because you have things like BlackRock buying up a bunch of fucking shit and putting people out of a house.
Those things.
But I mean, this is like not for nothing. This comes from Ben Shapiro. If your house is gonna flood, why don't you just sell it? Like, I mean, think people give him too much of a pass for that one. But he's if your house is going to flood, why don't you just sell it? Like, really, listening to Ben Shapiro talk about the issues that are going on in the world, this is why white supremacy is on the rise in the conservative party. Not because white supremacy is good, and not because Ben is Jewish or anything. That's not the point that I'm making. But it's because he's unwilling to even acknowledge that there's a problem. People on, like, other people on the right, we'll say racist people, let's be kind of real here, like, you know, your Fuentes, they at least say, we have all these problems. It's very difficult to be able to afford things. This is an issue. Housing is an issue. Healthcare, blah, blah, blah. They just blame it on immigrants. That's stupid. Obviously, it's rich people's fault. Although they do blame it on a certain group of rich people too, right? Ben is just like, no, man, this is just how it is. But like, your mom and dad worked in Hollywood and you were born rich. You don't know shit. You know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no meaningful real-world experience. You don't really know a goddamn thing about the actual like, living as a middle-class American. You're very out of touch. You've always been very out of touch. The only reason nobody's questioned you on the conservative side is because conservative ideology wasn't in the up and up. And so you guys, the infighting only exists on the group that's in power. So the progressives have been eating themselves alive. We've been eating ourselves alive, to be real. Because, like, when you're the dominant narrative, you have more ability to express and disagree with different people and blah, blah, blah. But conservatives haven't. And so conservatives haven't been like, dude, what the fuck is Ben Shapiro talking about? What the hell is this guy talking about? They don't say that because they can't. And now they can. And look at you. You look ridiculous. You look ridiculous. Honestly. With the hat. No, I'm just kidding. I love the hat. Okay, guys? I'm just kidding.
But everybody who's growing up, you know, listen, we're a spoiled society. Everybody who's been growing up.
Good. We are a spoiled society. What's your fucking point?
You know, with all of this nice stuff, we think that that's the norm and that there's no way that norm is ever going to go away. And that's not true.
Well, look, I agree.
Well, no, it is going to go away because we have billionaires fucking us in the ass.
Agree with you broadly in principle. However, when you talk about your grandparents, yes, our grandparents would be amazed by the smartphone and all of the other things you talk about. But our grandparents also could raise a family of four on a single income, have a house, have a car, and have a middle-class life. So
I think that there are a few things that are slightly a misnomer about that. So I think that, number one, your grandparents, depending on when they grew up, in say the 30s actually couldn't. I mean, your grandparents were dirt poor if they grew up in the Great Depression in the 1930s. That was a very, very bad decade. Sure. And then if they lived from 1941 to 45 in this country, then your grandfather was likely to be being shot at in either Europe or the Pacific. So those are rough years, you know, turning those into.
So are you saying that like there's no affordability issue nowadays? This is what you're telling us. My mom was born in like 1958. So just to be clear, you're like, see, this is what I'm talking. Okay. We're not talking about our grandparents. They're the generation of people who would be the age of our kids. Because Ben is like fucking 40. They're the ones complaining about their grandparents had it easier because they're right. Like my mother worked very hard. Ben is 41. I'm 35. My mother worked very hard, but like she was able to get a fucking pension working at White Castle. That doesn't exist anymore. There's no job that exists in the United States anymore, I would argue, where you could get in on an entry-level job like a fucking fry chef and then work your way up to making a low six-figure salary with a pension, with healthcare, with a paid car. That doesn't exist anymore. So people like my mother worked very hard in the system that she had, and she was able to succeed. And how many young people are going to have to work very hard, and they're going to lose their job to AI? They're going to go to school for 10 years so that they can learn to do something very, very masterful, and it gets replaced by a fucking computer. That's what we're talking about. It's just a constant dismissal of like the real issues. It's embarrassing.
Sort of the golden age of what it was like to live in America. So when people talk about this, what they're really talking about is a fairly short period of American history that existed essentially between the end of World War II and economically the rise of the rest of the world, when the rest of the world was basically in ruins. And so America could send a bunch of money to Europe and then produce all the products here because literally there was no industrial base anywhere else on planet Earth. They'd all been destroyed by World War II. And then you could work one income and you could still do that. That was actually not the way that virtually all work was done in the United States ever. I mean, if you go back to the 1910s or the 1900s when this was largely an agricultural society, mom was working on the farm, right? And when you're talking about problems of, for example, industrial labor, women were working in factories. And so this kind of brief period in American history, which was actually sort of an outlier.
It's all just like over. It's all just overspeak. It's all just over talk. He's overcomplicating the issue. Like I don't care. You don't get to say no. Things can't be better. Look at us. We're the richest country in the entire world, and our richest man in the entire world is worth $500 billion. He's worth $500 billion. And then this rich person, what he gets to do is collect no income. But when he wants to have money in his pocket, you want to know what he does? He goes, I want to have some money in my pocket. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go take out a very low interest rate loan and buy whatever the fuck I want. And the bank will give me anything I want, which basically means it's untaxed income that comes out and they purchase whatever they want because they have so much money, banks are willing to lend them any money they want. And that interest is significantly less than paying taxes. And the interest goes to the banks. You remember those banks, those guys who almost destroyed our fucking economy a couple of years ago during the Great Recession? I don't know if you guys remember the banks that almost ruined us. Oh, the banks get richer. That's great. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is this? Oh my God, dude. I'm getting fucking... It's insane. Like, it's, you have, there's, who is it? Like, I'm not trying to be a fucking dick. Who are you loyal to? Like, billionaires? Why are you not loyal to the middle class Americans? This is so out of touch. There's no way. I'm just telling you right now. There's absolutely no way that Ben Shapiro maintains his strength for much longer with how out of touch he sounds. I'm being serious. There's no fucking way. This is insane.
In terms of all world history. And treating that as like the norm is not true. Second of all, the housing affordability crisis, the average house in the United States is significantly nicer, significantly larger, with central air. If you looked at the
God forbid,
house that your grandparents were living in 1950.
Yes, they are smaller. I 100% agree. Okay, what's your point? There's only so many houses available. So basically what you're telling me is like these houses are being built as like that's what we can afford. Like, that's it. You only have so many choices. I mean, what are you talking about? And even smaller houses are very expensive. Like, my mother has a small house. Her house is worth a pretty good amount of money, despite the fact that it's small. I keep going the wrong way. Okay, people need to live somewhere. Do you think most people are living in houses? I would argue that most young people are either living with their parents or they're renting a small apartment. like a studio apartment. So this doesn't even matter. I don't care about this.
52, you would say this place is a box. This place is bad. And if you look at the job that your grandparents were working in 1953 at the Ford factory, you sitting in your comfortable office, your air-conditioned office,
Okay. And guess what? Ford factory jobs are dying due to automation. That was the thing. And this is another problem that Ben Shapiro doesn't understand because he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. There are a lot of industries like the auto industry or mining or coal or whatever was going on where like it was a generational job for a very long time. Technology hit very quickly and it got rid of that. That's the basics of it. And so like you might have had a kid and you and your kid was like, oh yeah, I'm going to just do what my dad did and I'm going to work at the fucking Ford factory. Well, guess what? Ford factory's gone because a robot does that job now. And so where does that leave your kid? They don't know what the fuck to do. So now they came from an area that didn't have a whole massive priority on educating their kids because everybody was just going to go work at the fucking mines, but now, or they're going to go work at the goddamn factory, and now that's gone. And so a massive part of what like allowed them to survive is dead. And now what? They don't have jobs anymore. The jobs that they were relying on are gone now. The industry's dead. And what are we doing for those people? Putting them on permanent disability. There's just so many factors. Like being able to, like a factory job isn't really considered a very high, class job. That's not a job people would say like, you deserve a livable wage for. It's so easy. A robot could do that. That's where we live now. Okay, what are you talking about? Truck driving jobs, huge job, 29 states, biggest job in 29 states. It's going to get automated in the next 5 to 10 years by like self-driving vehicles.
Complaining about your sciatica from your uncomfortable office chair. And then you're like, oh man,
Sciatica ain't no fucking joke. I'll tell you that much.
I'm really longing for those days of riveting. That is not an easy job. And by the way,
it's not about how easy the job is. I'm going to tell you right now, I guarantee you that like young people would be fine doing a hard job if it meant that they could afford things. But that's the problem is the jobs that are available. Yeah, they might be easier, but they don't pay very well. And that's it. They don't care. If you were like, hey, do you want to make like 50% more? But you gotta like, you gotta do some work with your hands. Oh yeah, no problem. I'll do that. The young people aren't that fucking lazy where they're not willing to do that. So what are you talking about? It's job availability is changing. Things are easier because of technology. That's just how things are.
It's not because we shipped it overseas, because machines do it now. And so like again, this is not to say everything is perfect because it isn't, but I think that having a false picture of the economic past leads to bad conclusions about the economic present that are not supportable by the actual data.
You make good points. I guess what I'm saying as well is, like, if you look at the other candidates in this election that Mamdani's just won, you did not have the same level of speaking to people's concerns about some of those issues.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that as well. And to be clear, like, that's how Trump got in, right? Like, one of the big things I remember is, they were talking about, middle-class jobs. And, Hillary couldn't exactly guarantee. They were like, hey, what are we going to do about these jobs not existing anymore? And Hillary was like, they're just gone now. Trump was like, we can keep them. Now, I don't know if we could actually keep them, but at least he said he was going to do something. People resonated with that.
Great. I mean, empathy sells in politics and also makes for very bad policy.
Because empathy is a fundamentally good thing to engage in. When you have empathy, you're willing to spread and share your ideas. That's what makes it good.
Because as many people have noted, empathy is about the person in front of you and feeling what that person feels. And that's great politically, right? I mean,
yeah, it's great. It's also great if you actually can understand, and empathize with middle-class Americans, Ben. It's really a great thing if you can empathize with middle-class Americans. You know what that means?
That's what makes people magic in a room. But when it comes to making a broad public policy, then it's really what is the most effective policy for the greatest number of people. And if you get
universal healthcare,
empathetic about like this individual, you're very likely to make a bad policy that is specifically designated to help this individual at the expense of many other individuals.
What?
Because
like who are you referring to?
Anybody who says they're empathetic toward all humanity is lying. I mean, that's usually not true. You're empathetic toward others.
Yeah, I'm not empathetic towards rich people, Ben, or people that were born with fucking silver spoons in their mouth. I don't know if you know anybody like that, Ben. Men.
It's a little self-serving, and so again, I'll give Mamdani credit for magically shaking the hands of cab drivers and kissing babies and being very, very good at that. But I'm not sure why that makes for good policy in any way, shape, or form.
I find it so funny, this like weird, and I don't know why conservatives do this more than anybody else, but this weird idea that like empathy is bad, because they're not saying that like sometimes empathy can be good, but we can be too empathetic, because we can be too empathetic sometimes. But empathy is fundamentally a good thing that is very positive and productive for society, right? So empathy, the fundamentals of empathy is like, hey, I know a thing, I'm willing to share that thing with you, knowing that. Like that's how when somebody learned how to make fire, if you were not empathetic, you wouldn't teach other people to make fire, right? Like that's what the problem is here. But empathy isn't a bad thing, dude.
But what it does show is the importance of charisma and how if somebody is charismatic, we've had people on the right, and I talk to people on the right person, they're like, oh, Mamdani's this and he's that. And I'm like, can we just not accept that as a campaign politician, he is 100% undeniable?
He's terrific, particularly in short spurts. So I think the debates, the last couple debates, I didn't think they needed great because they're,
He's also younger, and people are tired of old fucking politicians that are out of touch. Ben Shapiro, whose dad and mom worked in Hollywood. All right, that's not a dog whistle, by the way. That's just, I'm just trying to say they were rich. Okay, not dog whistling. People just resonate with that. Also, what the fuck do I get double jump?
Questions, and he really couldn't defend himself. But I don't think debates matter anymore because that's not how anybody consumes information.
That's right.
Right. The podcast space may be the last space where people consume in long form information, and even there, it's clips from this show that are going to go viral on X. Right.
I mean, sure, I suppose.
Jump off those walls as fast as you can.
And so if you're
you guys there.
August, edit that weird spot out. Okay, sorry about that.
Form information, and even there, it's clips from this show that are going to go viral on X, right?
Sure. I mean, there's a level of truth that people do consume things in shorter spurts. But also, like, his policies sound pretty decent when it comes down to them. I don't think that free busing is that big of a deal. I mean, like, it's not going to overburden the bus system. Rich people aren't going to go, oh my goodness, the buses are free now? I really need to get on it. Not going to do that, right? I don't think the busing thing is bad. I don't think the idea of a more affordable grocery store is exactly going to upset anybody. I think that we could probably, implement something like that. I mean, like, holding landlords accountable, I think is something that's going to really resonate with a lot of people. So I can understand that as well. I mean, I don't really see, like, what policies are really that bad from Mamdani. I think a lot of people are just, like, seeing people cry about dumbass shit constantly. And that's also, oh, fuck. That's making them go like, what are you doing? Why are you freaking out over this? It doesn't seem like a big deal. Especially like fucking poor, like old people. And they're just like, wow, you're cringe. Maybe I'll give this guy a shot. He's also young. I mean, everybody runs against him is like fucking old as shit. They're like out of touch,
And so if you're Zohar Mamdani and you put on, what I think is kind of a smarmy grin for 2 hours, but the thing that gets clipped out is 30 seconds of you grinning. 30 seconds of grinning isn't smarmy, it's charming. 2 hours of grinning is rictus-like. And so I think that the shrinking of the attention span and the way people consume information, he's built for that. He's really good at that. You see certain politicians, AOC is terrific at this. Pretending she's not is not going to make her any less terrific at it.
So just because somebody is like knows how to play the clip game doesn't mean that they're not necessarily charismatic in like a single one-on-one setting, but okay.
She really is very, very good at it. President Trump.
I think that she's made a lot of she's matured a lot. Me too. I mean, like I would, we're like the same age. It's not like I was like the super mature guy when I was like whatever age that I was. I think AOC's pretty solid. She's like toned it down a bit.
Is really good at it. Right? And if you go to a President Trump rally for like 90 minutes or 2 hours and he's kind of rambling, by the end, everybody's like, oh man, this is taking a while. But then you watch it on social media and you're like, man, that's hysterically funny, right? I mean, like those 2 minutes are amazing.
That's literally Trump. Dude, the half of this video, what's so funny about this, half of this fucking video is just like Ben Shapiro describing what makes Donald Trump so popular. And then saying that it's a flaw because Mamdani does it. That's most of this video. Yeah, he's a populist and he's kind of stupid, but he knows how to speak in 30-second bits. Oh, wow. Really? That's so interesting, Ben. You don't like that behavior? It's so interesting that you voted for it.
And so, the way people consume information is going to determine, who's capable of speaking into that medium.
Sure. Just because somebody can speak in, we'll say, shorthand in TikTok clips doesn't necessarily mean that they are incapable of existing.
Talking to Ben Shapiro.
Or incapable of actually having a more long-form conversation.
You can't help but be reminded that America was built by people who take risks. People who build things from the ground up.
This is so funny because, like, wouldn't the risk be like operating with Mamdani? Guys, you need to take risks, except for when it comes to capitalism. Keep sucking that billionaire cock and don't worry about implementing things that have never worked anywhere like every other Western country successfully, like free healthcare. That's why you have to take a risk and invest all your money into gold or some kind of doubloon.
That's exactly who this episode's sponsors, Next Insurance, are for. They are 100% dedicated to small businesses. the
Gotcha.
builders, the dreamers, and everyone turning ideas into reality.
Why is it if you want to make a risky business investment and you do it, you're applauded for doing something, risky. But if you want to like implement universal healthcare that's worked in so many other countries, all of a sudden that's just like not a risk that we're willing to deal with. That doesn't make any sense to me.
When we started Trigonometry, it was just us. No investors, no safety net, just two guys trying to build something.
Well, yeah, because your business is sitting in a room and talking. There's like no overhead for that. I mean, I do the same thing-ish.
If you run a small business, you know how much there is to handle. Budgets, staff, equipment, taxes, and
You know the deal, guys. We watch all the ads, baby.
yes, insurance. Next makes that last part simple. You can get the right coverage in minutes, buy it online, and download your certificate of insurance instantly. No paperwork, no waiting, just peace of mind that what you've built is protected. And you could save up to 30% on your business insurance for as little as $1 a day. Because when small businesses thrive, America thrives. Protect what you've built. Visit nextinsurance.com/trig or click the link in the description of this episode. So we've got this increasingly democratic socialist of America movement on the left.
Yeah, the be like the country the other two guys are come from movement.
I'm sure we'll see more of that as time goes on. We also now are seeing a civil war on the right, which exploded last week in particular over the fact that Tucker Carlson had this white nationalist called Nick Fuentes on his show. And then there is a big debate now going on in which you're one of the participants about whether the right should turn a blind eye to the fact that its fringe is becoming increasingly Nazi-ish, or whether there's a break that needs to be
Well, it's not really so much of a fringe anymore, is it?
made to prevent what happened on the woke left, or rather because of the woke left on the left, where the extremists took over, wore the skin of the entire thing, and then were punished very severely.
Dude, stop. Can we stop pretending that extremists ever took over on the left? It's like the silliest game that we play. Okay, the extremists have taken over the right. The extremists already taken over the right. What are the extremists on the left? Some cringe girls from 2020, like AOC, saying some dumb shit which they don't say anymore. That was the most extreme thing that you had on the left. Okay, and then you had COVID make like a huge deal out of like fucking, George Floyd, which by the way, that police officer murdered him, so he deserved to go to fucking jail. Right? That was the fucking crazy left. The crazy left. What's the crazy right? I don't know. Insurrecting the government, pretending climate change doesn't exist, pretending that vaccines are bad for you, thinking that the earth is flat, believing in that the angels came down from heaven and gave us somebody whose best friend was a fucking pedophile that's gotten divorced 3 times is somehow sent from Jesus Christ and God himself. Those are the people. What the fuck are you talking about? Cutting the Department of Education, massive taxes that are destroying the fucking economy while he makes $3 billion through cryptocurrency bullshit fucking scams. This is the person you're talking about who uses the FCT to silence political opponents. This is the person you're talking about. Somebody who keeps certain media organizations out of press hearings because he doesn't like the coverage that he gets. Somebody who goes on Twitter and says that Barack Obama gets a kickback from Obamacare. What are you talking about? The right is radicalized already. Nick Fuentes is like barely farther right from where fucking Trump is. The only difference between Nick Fuentes and the MAGA is that he doesn't like Jewish people. That's it. Everything else is the same. What has the whole campaign been from Donald Trump? Immigrants are coming here. They're raping people. They're sending their worst. They're taking all the jobs. They're trying to ruin the economy. They're trying to ruin you. They're trying to harm you. That's what it's been. Okay? That's not a meaningful policy of slowly cutting down on illegal immigration. That is hating on brown people and Haitian people, which are black as well. That's another thing. Cutting DEI policies just because we said so while implementing DEI hires like fucking Pete Hegseth. It's insane. What are you talking about? Nick Fuentes is 2 steps to the right of Donald Trump. That's it. He's very close. You guys are pretending that this is like something fucking crazy. Oh, the fringe right. This is kind of radical, guys. No, it's not. The only difference between now, what we have with Trump and what we have with Nick Fuentes is that Nick Fuentes doesn't like Jewish people. That is literally it. He is a conspiracy theorist who doesn't like minorities. Who else is that? That's Donald Trump. That's Ben Shapiro. That's every single other MAGA conservative. Not all conservatives, but MAGA conservatives. So stop sitting here and making these games where you're pretending like, oh, things are getting a little radical here, guys. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? You guys are unhinged. You guys are unironically unhinged. The most radical policy on the left, which isn't even that popular, is to have fucking universal health care, which is done in every single other successful Western country. You guys are fucking unhinged. You guys live in a fantasy world. Got a headache from all that talking.
The right should turn a blind eye to the fact that it's fringe.
Sorry, I accidentally restarted.
Is becoming a break that needs to be made to prevent what happened on the woke left.
The woke left.
Because of the woke left on the left, where the extremists took over, wore the skin of the entire thing.
The extremists took over, guys.
And then were punished very severely electorally over a period of time.
Not really. We were. Do people actually, like, unironically think that people on the left were, like, punished or something? Like, with what? That doesn't make any... unironically, it makes no sense to me. I don't think that's an honest or accurate, like, interpretation of anything meaningful. Like, you guys are acting like we literally... Kamala lost because she was a woman. Like, right? Like, I'm not saying all her policies were amazing, but you guys like to pretend that, like, oh, man, you guys are getting real punished. Not really. Trump sucks. He beat 2 women and lost to a senile old man. He's actually a horrifically dog shit, unpopular president. But he happened to basically get, like, easy wins. And I'm not saying that everybody's sexist, blah, blah, blah. But, like, there's a lot of people who don't think that a woman should be president or thinks the rest of the world would look down on us. That's a very normal thing for a lot of especially religious conservatives to think. And even, let's be actually real. Even Democrats, Republicans, like, older people. This is absolutely, like, stop pretending, though. Stop pretending that it lost anybody anything. Donald Trump was a widely unpopular, unlikable president that people really didn't like that much. He lost the midterms pretty horrifically in his first term because he couldn't do a goddamn thing, because he was very ineffective. He wasn't able to actually get policy done. He only won because women ran against him. That's it. He would have lost if it was a guy. It could have been a fucking homeless guy that didn't have all of his teeth, and he would have won. I don't know what to tell you. You guys are on a fucking cope. Everybody who thinks that Trump was a decent president, like, you guys are insane. Like, you guys just don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. Like, you guys like to pretend or cosplay, like, oh, Trump was so popular. No, not at all. He's actually deeply unpopular, I would say. But comparatively, I mean, like, he's okay. You know, it's like, hey, you want to piss your pants or shit yourself? Well, I guess I'll piss my pants. That's how people feel when they vote for Trump.
Give us your perspective on that.
Sure. I mean, I've been arguing against this for quite a while. I think that last week was a pretty good sort of indicator that there is a bleed over from a series of terrible ideas into the more mainstream area. The problem is not, of course, that Tucker Carlson, it's a free country. He can interview whomever he damn well pleases. It is not, in fact, cancellation to criticize somebody's interview tactics. And it's not even that he interviewed Fuentes. It's that he proceeded to massage Nick Fuentes. I mean, he treated him with kid gloves. He did not ask him a single difficult question. He did not press him on any of his extraordinary statements about...
Oh, wow. Who else does that remind you of? Oh, every interview Donald Trump gets. Wow, this guy literally... It sounds like Nick Fuentes is Donald Trump. Holy fuck. What the hell?
For example, Tucker's friend Charlie Kirk, or Tucker's friend J.D. Vance, or his wife, or any of that. And he simply brought him on and then proceeded to gloss him.
Fuck.
And the fact that was treated in...
Gloss him and glaze him? Come on, dude. You can't use using words you don't understand. Oh, fuck.
Some quarters is sort of normal, is, I think, a very serious problem. I think that it's a moral problem because, frankly, I do not think that you ought to be glossing people with terrible views, whether or not they are your friends or whether or not you go fishing together. And as public figures, I think that people have a responsibility to actually say when bad things are happening on your own side. And I also think that, you know,
I don't really want to hear it. I'll say that Ben is probably more vocal than other people about bad things happening on their side-ish. But just keep in mind that, like, during the entire... This is, like, a real thing, and people need to understand this. Just keep in mind, during the Andrew Tate era, Ben Shapiro's biggest criticism towards Andrew Tate, when all the sex trafficking and rape shit came out and everything, but up until, like, he didn't say a fucking thing about that. He had a problem with a joke Andrew Tate made about how Andrew Tate would prefer a 10 out of 10 trans woman over, like, a 3 out of 10 cisgendered woman. That was his biggest criticism. He was like, yeah, you know, some of the misogyny is bad. Like, this is somebody who applauds porn and, like, selling women's bodies, and you're like, yeah, you know, the trans take wasn't that hot for me. It was, and you want to know the only thing that made Ben Shapiro decide to criticize Andrew Tate? It was Israel-Palestine. That's it. That's all. That's what it took. You know, when it came to disrespecting women like your wife in general, you didn't give a fuck. It wasn't until Israel-Palestine where, like, a horrible thing happened on October 7th, but then the conversation shifted to, like, oh, look at this decades-long genocide that's been going on, and you're like, no, you know, that's what shifted you. That's what changed your mind. I think it's important to acknowledge these things. You know, you don't... You don't crawl shit out. You're a pussy. What the fuck are you talking about?
You know, there is an attempt to not only pretend it away, but in some cases embrace it with this sort of no enemies to my right, or our coalition must stand together or we'll lose. And I think that's bad pragmatically. I don't think that's even true.
That's what you've been doing for how long?
I think that what we've watched here is, yeah, everybody's celebrating Zohar Mamdani winning in New York. In New York, okay? Like, this place is 127% Democrat. So, like, it's like when people say, oh, AOC is going to be a national candidate. Maybe she will be, or maybe she won in Brooklyn. And maybe Abigail Spanberger is going to be a better candidate for the Democrats because she ran in Virginia and won. And Virginia seems to be more representative of the body politic, broadly speaking, across America than New York, which is a pretty closed circuit. You know, the idea on the right that if you must gloss Nazis in order to win. If they start to become, if the face of the Republican Party continues to move in a direction,
it's been moving. You guys have been moving for what, 10 years? What are you talking about?
That is racialist, that is religiously exclusivist to the extent that it seems to be moving.
What? That's what you guys have been doing.
If that is the way that the Republican Party decides to play it, that is not an electorally sound strategy, just on a pragmatic level.
It's just, dude, I mean, this is embarrassing, right? Like, I can't be the only one that finds this to be, like, wholly embarrassing for Ben. You're just describing what... so basically what I'm hearing is that, like, Donald Trump set the stage for somebody like Nick Fuentes to succeed, and you were actively part of it, Ben. Okay.
I don't see... like, these are not... the American people do not like the politics of, say, Nick Fuentes. And the attempt to launder his ideas into the public view, which is what I think Tucker has been doing with a wide variety of rather nefarious characters.
I mean, maybe, but like, you're not doing anything productive for this conversation. That's one of the problems, is like, you know, Ben is not doing anything productive here. The problem here is that if you're somebody on the right now, and you know that something doesn't make sense, that like there is a class of people that are harming you by taking away opportunities and overtime, like you're just fucking you. Their jobs are scarce. There's a lot of power centralized at the top, and you're like acknowledging of that. Who's the only person that's really saying anything about that? It's Nick Fuentes. Like, you know, it's not Ben Shapiro. So, I mean, you're not exactly creating a spot for it. You just sat here and like justified like horrific fucking you just sat here and justified, you know, some dumbass shit the entire time. That was like your whole thing was like, oh, what if we just like justified not being able to afford a house? Like, you're not exactly providing a lot of these young people with the ability to have an alternative that they could gravitate towards.
Over the course of the last 2 years, I don't think those laundered views are particularly popular with the American people. And so if the right wants to pretend like, you know, moving in that direction is going to win them additional votes, not the number of votes you're going to lose by moving in this particular direction.
People might say Tucker Carlson's got the biggest conservative platform in America. Isn't that proof that actually these views are very popular?
I mean, they are popular with a certain segment. Are they popular broad scale across America? I mean, I know many.
Yes, they're popular enough to gain online dominance, because people are frustrated and looking for a reason why, like, everything is bad. And if you can't redirect to billionaires who it actually is, they're going to redirect you to different minority groups, which has been a conservative tactic for a very long time.
Ambulatory psychotics who have very large audiences in the online space. I'm not calling Tucker an ambulatory psychotic. I think he's very actually coherent in what he's doing. But I know a lot of people who have a big audience. We should note that every big audience in the media, you're talking about 3-4 million people. The electorate in the United States is generally about 160 million people. And so you can find, you know, it's a big country. You can find a niche for anything. I think one of the mistakes politicians make is they look at X and they say, this is representative of the American body politic. And that is just too online. It's just way too online. I mean,
that's what your whole thing has been for how long, though? Or like, it sounds like what he's saying, it sounds like it makes sense, right? Like, yeah, that is true. Like, because X is not like, or Twitter, whatever, it's not exactly the best representation of how everybody feels when it comes to everything, right? But who does that? Oh, conservatives online do that. At least from what I see, Ben does that. When you sit here and talk about how crazy and extreme and fucking radical shit was, dude, in 2020, it was crazy. On TikTok. It was crazy on TikTok. You're doing the same thing that like you're criticizing. So like, you seem like you know what you're doing, so what do you keep doing it for? It's just very strange behavior. That's what it is. It's just very strange behavior. You know what you're doing. Why do you keep doing it?
And just to take one obvious example, Tucker Carlson was very much opposed to President Trump's strike on the Iranian nuclear facility and said that it was going to break MAGA. That was a 90-10 proposition in the opposite way for President Trump by all polling data among the Republicans. Republicans were very much pro that. And so, but if you'd read Twitter, then you would have gotten precisely the opposite impression. And so I think being too online is one aspect of this for sure.
Ben, but we talk about being...
I understand we're all very online. That's what we do. That's what I do for a living, right? But we usually like to separate the real and the fake, the online and the offline. It just doesn't seem to be, I don't know if Ben is just not capable of doing that, or if he just knows when to do it, when not to.
Too online. And I take your point. However, what is undeniable is that the online world bleeds into the real
Absolutely.
world, which we saw with wokeism. And
oh my God, wokeism. What is wokeism?
Partly the reason that wokeism grew so powerful, in my opinion, is a dearth of courage and integrity on the left, where they saw the extremists run rampant and nobody was going to stood up and went, hang on, this is nonsense, stop doing that.
Sorry, who are the extremists on the left, by the way? What are the extreme positions on the left? I'm just wondering what we want to say. People who thought reparations were smart. Dumb people. young, ignorant people. That's it. It wasn't really that crazy, by the way. It wasn't really that crazy. It was some ignorant young people that thought that was the best idea. What is the extremism on the right? Oh, that this certain country controls the world. Gotcha. And that we need to get rid of all races. Stop pretending that right-wing extremism and left-wing extremism are anywhere close to the same. You guys are ridiculous. You guys have to fucking label you guys label shit so fucking strangely. Let's be fucking real here. It's so bizarre. You guys label people wanting some affordable healthcare by having the government run it as fucking socialism. You act on unhinged. It's fucking insane. It's just ridiculous. Stop,
And now I'm seeing the same thing happen on the right with exceptions like people like yourself, and I'm going, are we not just seeing the mirror image of what happened in 2014, 2015?
I mean, I think we are, and it's very, very concerning to me. I mean, I'm encouraged that I think there are a lot of people who
2014. What was going on in 2014? What?
Have been coming out and saying that this is
2014.
Seeing the mirror image of what happened in 2014, 2015.
I mean, I think we...
What are you talking about in 2014? What the fuck are they talking about? What was so woke about Barack Obama's shit? What?
We are, and it's very, very concerning to me. I mean, I'm encouraged that I think there are a lot of people who have been coming out and saying that this is not appropriate, right, that this is not something that you can quote unquote side with or unify with, and I think that's good. But I do agree that one of the polarized aspects of American politics is this idea that as long as you're quote unquote on my side, and we don't actually define what on my side means based on, say, principle, we instead define it based on what we supposedly oppose. But even then, we don't necessarily oppose the same things, but we kind of broadly just throw up our hands. They're on my side. They're on my side. And that dynamic leads to polarized sides where, I mean, the future of this, if the more radical wings were to win on the right and the more radical
okay, they already have, Ben. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This guy's an idiot.
Wing continues to win on the left, you end up with an electoral future that looks essentially red versus brown, right? And that's not an electoral future I think that's good for any American, especially because the vast majority of Americans are neither of those things and don't like either of those things.
And look, we can dress it up, oh, they're on my side, but let's talk about what it really is. It's about you not wanting to be ostracized by your own team. It's about you not wanting to lose viewers, followers, influence.
This is the literal reason why fucking why Ben Shapiro supported Donald Trump for as long as he did. You don't want to lose people, so you're saying this is why he didn't go after Andrew Tate for at all in any meaningful capacity for the longest time. I don't want to lose followers. It's just so funny when people who have done the exact same fucking shit that they criticize are sitting here and virtue signaling. It's actually fucking, it's funny. It's ridiculous. And it's it's almost funny. It's embarrassing for you guys.
So you take the path that is easy for you, but ultimately destructive, not only for the conservative movement, but America as a whole.
I mean, I think that is right. I do.
You think it's right? Are you serious?
I think that is an easy path to ensuring that you, quote unquote, don't lose people, but I don't think that it's a good path for not losing the country. And I think that if you lose your soul, then you end up losing the country. Again, the things that I've fought for, let's put it this way. I've been doing this for a very long time. I started writing a syndicated column when I was 17 years old. I don't know that there's anybody who's been following me for any period of time who's ever said, whatever happened to the views of that Ben Shapiro? He's really morphed. He's really changed. Well, what happened? Like, I don't get that question ever, but I don't think...
Well, probably because people didn't care about you back then, because you probably weren't very popular when you were 17, because you were funded by your parents, because you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But then also, what the fuck are you talking about? You're telling me you haven't changed any position since you were 17 years old? That's just embarrassing for you. That's like a self-report to me. No? How is that not a self-report? Yeah, I haven't really changed my views in fucking 25 years. What? Why? Why would you admit that?
You could say the same about Tucker. I mean, I think that's one of the most common questions about Tucker. It's like, what changed? What happened? And so I think, that's a relevant question. And pretending that people haven't morphed or that shouldn't have any impact on the public discourse, of course it does. The things that, that's literally our job, is to talk.
I'm not understanding. You're bragging about not changing, right? I just want to be on the same page here. That's fucking incredible.
About these issues. And if you talk about the issues in a different way, it seems to me that earns a different response.
One of the people that seems to disagree with, I don't know if this is exactly true, but seems to be based on what I'm reading, is Matt Walsh, who of course is your colleague at the Daily Wire. How are you going to negotiate that situation?
I mean, listen, at the Daily Wire, we have a wide variety of views on a wide variety of subject. Matt is free to have his opinion. I think he's wrong. I'm sure he thinks I'm wrong. And that is what it is. I also noticed that
Well, Ben also can't push too many people away with differences in opinion. I mean, obviously they pushed Candace away, which was probably the right idea, because she was going way too into the anti-Jew conspiracy theory. I mean, you can criticize Israel, but she seems to hate Jewish people. But he can't push anymore anyway, regardless of what they're saying, or he's going to have a crumbling, his media empire will crumble. It can't handle that much. It's just literally it.
Matt is not glossing Nick Fuentes.
No, he's not. And this is what I was going to ask you about as well. Where does this idea come from? Because, look, I completely agree with you. Anyone is entitled to have anyone on the show that they want. We've invited Nick Fuentes on the show. We would treat him very differently, I think, than Tucker would. We would have a conversation with him and push on some of the things that he's said. We haven't heard anything back. But where does this idea...
Maybe that's why they won't. Maybe that's why he won't go on with you. Or maybe it's because he thinks you're small potatoes right now, because you kind of are comparatively to other people that they've been getting. I mean, this is obviously a pretty big podcast, but
idea come from that if I say the person you had on your show is someone whose values I don't agree with, and I don't like the way you conducted the interview, that is cancellation?
Yeah, I mean,
when did that happen?
I think it's
with Brett Cooper. She had this. Brett Cooper's another one that's just what are you talking about? So many of these people are so fucking it's so strange. It's just ridiculous. And I love her defense. It's this is just where the party's going. You have to put up with it. It's oh, okay, great.
It's a really low resolution response to what probably was a low resolution description of cancellation in the first place. So I think that if you were going to look at sort of the etymology of what happened here, it seems to me that the left shut the Overton window so unbelievably tight that...
The left did everything wrong. We're not to blame at all. We didn't do anything wrong, guys. What the fuck? Oh my goodness, what the hell?
If you said, for example, a man is not...
It's so funny because it's the left did this, the left did that. Okay, well, what did the right do? Oh, they've elected Trump, who uses the FCC to try to pressure political opponents into not speaking. Gotcha. Okay, this is a left problem, right? Okay, enough. There is a party that is a legitimate threat to democracy. There is a lazy party, and there is a party that is a legitimate threat to democracy. Okay? I would say the left is the lazy party. The threat to democracy is literally fucking Donald Trump. What are you talking about? What?
Not a woman. This meant that you had to be socially ostracized. And I think that's what people mean.
What are you talking about?
For example, a man is not a woman. This meant that you had to be socially ostracized. And I think...
No, that's not true at all. Stop it. You're fucking making shit up. You're full of fucking dog shit. Nobody gives a fuck about the trans conversation or issue. This is just another way to try to force that into the conversation in a dishonest way. That's not part of the conversation. Nobody gives that much of a fuck about trans people. That's just the reality. Trans people need rights and they're good people, but nobody's that focused on it except for conservatives that try to force it into the conversation because they have no actual meaningful, intelligent policy at all.
I think that's what people mean when they say cancellation. The free speech concerns typically are about being banned from platforms. Cancellation is the idea of social ostracism, that you must be invited to the party. And so for a while, it was like you couldn't be invited to any party, or people would attempt to go after your career if you said things that were kind of baseline normalcy. And the response on the right was not let's broaden the Overton window. It was,
although I guess I will say that there is some cancellation going on the left right now. Actually, I guess we got to bring up I think what has happened. I don't know the specifics of it, but like I think people are like stepping away from like what is it called? Whatever Teddy Glow. Ela Klein's business, because they're the dishonest framing. Well, actually, that's a different type of cancellation. That's more of the dishonest framing of their beliefs. They don't actually believe that Israel is like perfect. That's what people are like lying about their beliefs. But I guess there is. Well, I don't know if I'd consider that like this huge cancel culture thing, or that's like a lie. That is like a lying cancel culture. You know? Are you kidding me?
Was let's eviscerate the Overton window. Now, almost a morally relativistic response. All views are now to be treated as perfectly equivalent, and if you act with scorn at any view, then that must be a form of cancellation. That must be a form of social ostracization that is unjustifiable. And so what you end up with is this sort of bizarre math where the right has taken to the idea that if you get a lot of flack, it's because you're over the target. And also that if you criticize, then that's a form of cancellation, that's a form of social ostracization. Well, if you add those two things together, what you come up with is it is probably better to be a Nazi than to criticize a Nazi. Because if you're a Nazi, then you're taking a lot of flack, which must mean that you're over the target. And if someone criticizes you, then they're engaging in the same sort of politically correct cancellation that the left was engaging in. You must be right, they must be wrong, and they're canceling you, and they're violative of sort of basic First Amendment.
Sorry.
Because if you're a Nazi, then you're taking a lot of flack, which must mean that you're over the target. And if someone criticizes you, then they're engaging in the same sort of politically correct cancellation that the left was engaging in. You must be right, they must be wrong, and they're canceling.
Oh, okay, I see. I think I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is that the left for a long time has been calling everything Nazi, even if it's not really a Nazi talking point. And now when we accurately call somebody a Nazi like Nick Fuentes, who praises Hitler, you're just thinking that people are over-exaggerating. And back then, when the left would call everything Nazi shit, that wasn't actually Nazi shit. That was a indicator to conservatives that they were actually correct. They were in the right spot. I guess that was what he's trying to say. And now he has to reclaim the word Nazi back and be like, hey, this is actually a really bad thing. It's not just like a silly little word that's been desensitized by the left. Okay, I guess maybe there's a level of truth to that.
Canceling you, and they're violative of sort of basic First Amendment principles. So I think that's a really low resolution view. I think the argument about cancellation was not that nobody should ever be socially ostracized. It was that the idea set that was being socially ostracized was a very normie mainstream set of views. And I'm not a moral relativist. I don't believe all views are equivalently moral or decent or worthy of, or even worthy of response. I think this idea that you're not allowed to have scorn for views that you believe are damaging or deeply immoral, like truly bad. Like, for example, not even arguments, just statements. Like, Nick Fuentes calling JD Vance's wife. Like, that's not an argument.
A what? I'm assuming that's a slur.
Or how are you supposed to respond to the argument that he has made, for example, that JD Vance is a fat gay race traitor who shouldn't be president of the United States because he's in an intermarriage? Am I allowed to respond to scorn? I feel like scorn is a pretty good response to that, and that doesn't actually deserve a debate or a fulsome discussion, and that in fact treating that as though that is a rational idea is a disservice to rationality. But if you treat all forms of that response as cancellation, that's probably how you get to this math.
And of course, one of the other things that happened, and I think...
I guess I generally agree, sure.
The woke left deserves all the scorn and blame for this is what they've done to words. I see people now saying, well, how dare you call Nick Fuentes a Nazi? I'm going, well, I'm not insulting him. I am describing his views.
Correct. There's...
I love it. Even when conservatives are taking the hard L, they got to blame the fucking left. Holy shit. Talk about lack of fucking accountability here. Holy fuck, dude. You guys let Nazis invade your fucking party and your fucking your mentality, and you barely go on against them. And like we're sitting here now, you're blaming the left for it. It's like, wow, okay.
There's been an attempt, because the left has overused all of these terms, they've now become meaningless. And that means that when you do that in the rhetorical space, you actually end up destroying...
Okay, sorry, just to be clear, this is the group that thinks that gay people are groomers and rapists, and that's what they call gay people, because they want to, if they're trans, they're like, they'll call them groomers and shit like that. You're the one saying that we're overusing words? What? What are you, like, what, like, are you fucking, you're serious? Are you serious? You guys are unhinged, frankly.
the systemic immunity that
Right.
people have to bad things.
Exactly.
So if you call everything racist, then the response typically is, okay, nothing's racist. But that's not true. We know that some things are actually racist. If you say that black people are innately inferior, that's racist, right? That's a racist statement.
Hey, relax. Nobody brought up Charlie Kirk.
But if I say racist, there's a group of people who will immediately say, well, no, you're just using racist as a club in order to shut down conversation because the left used it in that way. And so a sort of Pavlovian response
Always the left's fault, baby. Always the left's fault.
is developed where if you use
There's just no accountability on the right, dude. It's fucking insane.
a term the way it's properly supposed to be used, then it's treated the same as if you were improperly using the term. So the term itself loses all meaning. And then, I guess we have to re-argue that issue. I mean, I guess that's the idea. But again, some of these are not arguments. Some of these are impulses or emotional outbursts or insults or trollery. And so that's not an honest conversation. That's not a discussion.
Did you know that the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? The increased longevity of American citizens means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice. If you have over $50,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Visit triggergold.com or text TRIGGER to 35052 today. We talked about Tucker, and one of the things is quite clear that, as you say, there's been a direction of travel change very significantly since he left Fox and started doing what he's doing. He's hosted.
What do you mean? He's done the same thing the entire time. He just cum guzzles conspiracy theories. He's always done that. That's why he was fired from Fox News. Do people not understand why Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News? He was knowingly pushing Dominion voter fraud lies. He was caught in text messages saying he knows it's fake, and he was still saying it on Fox News. And now what does he do? Oh, he does more propaganda, but for something else. You guys act like he's made this huge change. You guys supported him when he was doing propaganda that you thought was on your side. And now he's not doing that, so he's bad? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. He's always been doing this. He hasn't changed at all. What are you talking about? These guys have no idea what they're talking about. I don't even know what is, I don't understand. Holy fuck. I'm not even a smart person. What's the requirement to do content like this? Do I have to be even dumber? What is happening here? You guys can't even accurately fucking examine a person. What?
The whole number of people that clearly are pushing a particular worldview. I think that's fair to say. What do you think he's up to with that?
I don't like to attribute inauthenticity to people, so I will assume that it's reflective of his actual worldviews. I think that, just look.
Tucker makes money pushing conspiracy theories. That's what it is. Tucker Carlson is somebody who thinks that he's better than everybody. That's it. He thinks that he's the smartest person in the entire world. He thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's better than everybody else, and he thinks he's smarter. And because of that, he doesn't really care what he says or does as long as it gives him some kind of power, because he doesn't respect you or anybody else that you exist with. He doesn't expect the platform. He doesn't expect the atmosphere or the world around him. He's just somebody that wants more things and wants to be popular. That's it. Anybody with half a fucking brain would understand that. Where did Tucker get his start? You see him getting absolutely washed out by fucking Jon Stewart about his performative crossfire bullshit, performative conversational left-right debate space, which is just Piers Morgan on fucking. That's all it was. It was just a performative fucking shit show. It was political theater. He's been a grifter his entire life. He does not care. He just wants money and he wants influence, regardless of whether he feels or thinks or cares. He doesn't care about any of these things. That's all it is. He's right woke. He's right-wing woke. Oh, look at these things. Isn't this interesting? Wow, maybe Russia isn't so bad. Okay. Yeah, Russia, who assassinates political opponents, has had the same president for 20 years. I guess Putin's just a really good president.
Looking at the guests that he's had and sort of the views that he has launched.
Yeah, he never wore a bow tie again after Jon Stewart fucking roasted him.
Because that seems to be his mode of doing business. It's that he very rarely says the thing that he wants to say out loud. A few times he will. For example, in the Fuentes interview, he'll say that Christian Zionists have a brain disease, right? That's him actually saying the thing that he thinks, then sort of trying later to half buy it back as he realized he crossed a politically inconvenient line for him.
I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, Christian Zionists. What is that?
Right.
And,
I mean, isn't that biblical? I mean, I don't believe in Zionism or whatever, but isn't that just biblical? Aren't you supposed to come guzzle the fucking Israel as the Holy Land or whatever?
I could just say from my self.
Fuck you, dude.
I dislike them more than anybody. Because like what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
But mostly what he does is he has on people, and then that's fascinating. That's very interesting. Now, of course,
yes, he doesn't give pushback against like bad ideas. Yes, it's called a lie by omission. And you do it all the time when it comes to your guzzling of Donald Trump. We understand what that is. Yes.
Of course, Tucker is perfectly capable of carrying out a very adversarial interview, as he did with, for example, Ted Cruz. And so pretending that he's not doing that thing is, I think, insulting to the intelligence. And the right would not accept it in any other context. If a reporter has on...
You do it all the time. You accept it all the time. People are willing to accept this type of behavior as long as they agree with the thing that's being basically, like, spoken down to.
Kamala Harris and asks her 0 difficult questions except how brat she is, then we are rightly going to assume...
Every interview that Donald Trump's gotten is it's nothing. They literally nobody gives any pushback, even like on the left, because they're afraid he's going to say some dumbass shit or he's going to punish their media organization. What are you talking about?
That reporter is pro Kamala Harris, right? And it's not doing their actual journalistic job, and you can sort of intuit views that way. Guest selection is definitely a big one. How you treat your guests is a big one. We can sort of intuit the views. I think that the Tucker's general belief from looking at the way he has done his sort of foreign policy talk is that it's not just that America's overextended, it's that America is a sort of nefarious force in the world, and wherever American support for allies happens, then it must be the result of domestic manipulations, and that the most important thing right now is to essentially go autarkic, to bring, I think this is the most charitable read, to bring American resources home, to not be involved in the world in any way, and most.
See, this is one of those telling things, though. So what he's saying is that, like, Tucker Carlson believes that, like, there's some kind of force out there that's causing us to seek outside of ourselves and engage in globalism, right? So, like, we're we're doing too much impact on the world, and we're basically giving too much money away to the entire world. Ben Shapiro's take is totally different, according to him, and that he believes in all those things, except he thinks that we should give money to Israel. That's it. That's the only difference. It's obviously because he has dual citizenship, and I understand that. That's fine. Now, me personally, I think that we should give money to, like, different people based on their needs. Probably not so much in the forms of missiles to Israel, personally. But you notice that, like, in this conversation, the biggest constant that I think that people need to understand is there is such an insanely small difference between Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes. They all hate the same groups of people. They don't say it out. Well, Nick Fuentes does. They all hate the same groups of people. They're all isolationists. They all blame everything on the left. They all blame everything on minorities. The only difference is that Ben Shapiro doesn't want Jewish people in the crossfire. Now, all smart people don't want anybody in the crossfire. But that's it. That's the only difference. That he's no different than any of these other people. And he's sitting here and he's cowering. How did we get here? Because of Donald Trump, the person that you actively advocated for. What are you talking about?
Most importantly, that anybody who opposes this agenda is a tool of a foreign agenda, or is a malign actor, which is the thing that differentiates, I think, some of how Tucker does his business from others. I think Tucker is very fond of using emotivism, where he attributes motive to people in order to not even debunk the argument, but simply to just say, they're a bad person, they hate you, they want to hurt your children. And I despise them. I despise them comes up a lot on his show, which I've always found kind of strange. Like, I don't know why that's an argument. Why are your feelings even sort of relevant to the point that you're making? It's a sort of strange political take. I despise. I mean, who cares?
Why are your feelings relevant? Okay. Why are your feelings relevant to the conversation? What are you talking about?
Mm.
And I despise lots of things. I mean, broccoli is not my favorite. Like, of what relevance is this?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. And whenever I hear Tucker, I listen to him, there does seem to be it kind of reminds me of like a failed romantic. He had this romanticized idea of America and what America was.
He's never had that. What are you talking about?
He's now fallen out of love. And like a guy who's gone through his first breakup, he looks at his girlfriend and goes, oh, she's a massive bitch.
I mean, I think that
this is such a weird I don't think that they feel that way, to be honest with you. I don't know. There's something very inauthentic about this entire conversation. That's all I'm saying. I don't even know if I can articulate it. There's something very inauthentic about this conversation that makes me like almost uncomfortable. Like, I don't think you believe anything that you just said. What? It sounds like they're just trying to be negative towards Tucker Carlson for the fuck of it. Like, okay.
That I think that probably he would agree with that on America's foreign policy. I think he talks about this openly about, for example, the war in Iraq, but I think that he's been critical of pretty much every American foreign policy decision since World War II, including World War II. I mean, really, including World War II, right? I mean, he has on guests who have said repeatedly, not just one, multiple guests who have said that either America took the wrong side in World War II or the true villain of World War II was Winston Churchill. He himself has said, what did Churchill actually gain? Because now London is a terrible place, which is sort of like saying that there's litter in the streets of New York, therefore the Enlightenment was bad. It's like clearly he thinks something went fundamentally wrong with the West around the time that World War II happened.
Which is interesting because he's profited so much from the West. But I think that Tucker will be fine with being like any type of a propaganda arm for like anything. I don't think that he's a principled person that really cares about anything. Like I said, I think he's just like a fundamentally selfish person that's just looking for like power and resources more than anything else. I don't think he cares about like America or anything.
And you know why he's saying that, and what is the viewpoint that defines that? I think he's sort of left that undefined. So I'll leave that undefined. All I'll say is I think that it's untrue. I think that some of the views, many of the views of the people that he brings on, run counter to traditional American conservatism at the very, very least.
So does Donald Trump.
Look, the brilliant thing about social media and podcasting is that there's no
That it's easy as fuck, baby.
gatekeepers. The terrible thing about social media and podcasting is there's no gatekeepers. And when you look at people like Tucker and you look at people like Candace, when they were in large organizations and they had to report to people, there were guardrails and they couldn't go off the reservation.
This is like the worst messaging you could have. Like, you guys obviously have I don't even know how you guys are popular. The fact that you even said that is fucking flabbergasting. I'm not saying it's untrue, but the fact that you thought that was a resonating message, like, why would you say that? Oh man, when they're like under the thumb of somebody else, like, it's like at least they're kept in control. Control for what reason? That's what's going to happen. I understand what you're saying. They go off on like unhinged, dumb fucking conspiracy theories constantly, for sure. But like, that's not a message that's going to resonate with your base. They're going to be like, oh, well, that's weird. Shouldn't you be able to just contend with their bad ideas? There's a level of truth to that. Probably. I don't know that. I guess this is what this is, but just saying that out loud makes you guys look like really weird. It doesn't make you look good.
Whereas now they can go off the reservation and we've seen what's happened.
I mean, again, I think that it's not even a matter of gatekeepers as much as it is of a willingness to sort of be checked by people and listen to maybe better judgment. Because I think that there's a case to be made that many of the gatekeepers have sucked, and getting rid of some of the gatekeepers was good. But I think that what is required of consumers of information now is significantly more than was required of consumers of information 15, 20 years ago.
You have to be your own gatekeeper now.
Yeah, and most people are not really good at that. It's not even a matter of qualification. It's just they're not very good at it. Because, again, you're consuming information like a fire hose, and it's coming at you on social media from an algorithm that I think is quite perverse in places like X or on Reddit or wherever.
Well, yes, X is very perverse, and it's out. Yes, for sure. It's so funny because, like, dude, that is 100% true. X is like a different kind of creature. And like, I've even considered like not even posting clips on there anymore, and they don't do particularly well. For one on there, I'll get a video, I'll get something with like 3.5 million views on TikTok, and I'll get like fucking 100 views on X. So it's like, is this really a platform worth bothering with? Is a thought I have quite often, actually. It's very strange, but it's like, dude, that is the most conservative platform. That's the most conservative mainstream platform out there is X. It is Twitter. And when you sit here and you're like, oh man, it's like so bad. Like, why do you think that is? Like, Twitter is literally the embodiment of people saying whatever the fuck they want, unchecked. That is what you keep saying when it comes to freedom of speech. Now, that's not what freedom of speech is. To be clear, freedom of speech is not when a platform doesn't express their own freedom of speech. It's like, if you own a platform or a business, you can say you don't want certain people on there, like Nazis or racists. Right, but that's what you've been virtue signaling about. Freedom of speech. Anytime somebody says something, well, that broke freedom of speech. Did it? Or did people just say that was bad? We're going to ban you off the platform. Right? And so, like, those are your guys, man. Those are your guys. Those are the guys that you've been backing for so long. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, what the fuck? What's happening here? I don't know. Like, that's what you... This is what happens when you decide to lie by omission and not criticize people that, like, that you slightly align with, so that you can generate an audience. That's what happens here. Whatever this is what happens.
Wherever you are, TikTok, And so unless you are a very informed person,
TikTok.
Reddit or wherever you are, TikTok
TikTok is fine. I post on there constantly. It's fine.
And so unless you are a very informed person to begin with, it's very difficult to know what sources to trust. And that's when you get into a bit of confirmation bias. And that's where we get back to sort of the original point that we were making, which is the people who pander most strongly to your sensibilities, which is that you have been wronged by some sort of conspirial coterie of people who are aiming to crush you underfoot.
Yeah, billionaires, 100%. Okay, it's somebody. If you're not willing to say anybody, then people are going to think you're bought. I'm just letting you know, like that's what it is. So
that's a very flattering idea, because then the idea is that
it's also true.
You're not responsible for any of your own actions, and that
you're still responsible for your own actions. You can still control some of your shit going on. That's not true, right? There's a difference between acknowledging it versus victimizing yourself over it, right? You need to still try to do your best to succeed in this atmosphere, but like what?
all solutions are just simple if only you had the power.
But that doesn't mean it's not true.
To implement them.
And you also get incentivized to create this type of content, because the more of this kind of conspiratorial content, let's just call it that you make, the more likely people are to engage with it, because they're thinking to themselves, oh, this is interesting, this is dangerous, I want to hear what these
Hey, well, a secret's being uncovered. Whenever
Yeah.
a secret is being uncovered, that's much more interesting than somebody saying, hey, there's no secret, everybody's bad at their job. which by the way, is actually significantly more accurate.
There's definitely a level of truth to that too. Like, yes, I agree with that too. There's people who are very bad at their job. That is true. Like, a lot of it is that people are just kind of bad at their job, and I 100% agree with that. That doesn't mean, like, what does that mean though? Part of that is like, oh, we're not implementing the correct policies because we allow like fucking billionaire lobbyists to do whatever the fuck they want unchecked.
Virtually all circumstances, people are just not good at things who think they were going to be good at things.
But you're making it seem like it's all just like negligence. It's not. A lot of times it can be very meaningful. There can be times where it's negligent, but a lot of times it's like very intentional. Like, hey, I'm going to intentionally like take a ton of money from a lobby group and not really care about advocating for a productive, change in healthcare.
And then the results are bad. But it's much more sexy if you say, no, there's a nefarious secret. There's a group that meets in secret and they get together just to fuck you.
Yeah, billionaires. Ben is sitting here and he's signaling like that's what Nick Fuentes says about Jewish people, which is what it is what he says about Jewish people. But we don't have to go that far. We know that this, and by the way, they're not even getting together and saying these things. They're just doing it, and you just don't care. You don't really care enough. You're more interested in getting distracted by conspiracy theory than like, oh man, this is really bad. Like, you're more interested in being like, oh my god, there's a nefarious conspiracy, rather than just like looking in front of your face and be like, oh wait, there's just like people actively fucking us, and we just don't care. Oh shit, what the fuck? Like, that's more of what's happening.
Yeah. Right. That's flattering to your sense of self. It's flattering to your sense of the world. And now you're part of an informed group of people who really know the thing that nobody else knows.
Well, that's very true. And I think another piece, and I wrote about this on my Substack, I don't know if you saw, but
Whoa, your Substack
was about what's happened to young men in particular over the last 10, 15 years.
Oh yeah, what happened?
Where we had this woke period where if you were a straight white man,
God,
like
dude,
there was
shut
like
up.
there was dog shit, and then straight white men like
yeah, it's not that deep, dude. I get so triggered by this shit because that doesn't exist anywhere but online. Yes, sure, that's a level of truth, but you know what? A lot of the issues that young men are experiencing are like self-inflicted or inflicted by their family. We have this like probably the biggest generation of like single motherhood, because dads don't want to be around their kids, even if they're not like, even if you can get divorced and still be a good dad. Okay, and then you have like a lot of antisocial behavior from the internet that's like hindering young men's ability to like interact with people. And then you see a lot of young men be very toxic in these online spaces, and they get really upset when women enter them. They're like, why can't I find a partner? And then they kick every woman out of their space. Oh, maybe that's why. A
lot of levels below that. And particularly for a generation who neither created a system where men may have had some advantage, or white people may have had some advantage, nor benefited from that. If you were a 15-year-old Zoomer, you were being told the future's female, all men are trash, etc.
Yeah, for like 2 years on TikTok. Relax, it's not that fucking deep. This is stuff that like little kids fall for.
While actually your life outcomes and the education system, which was overwhelmingly not favorable to people like you that you were going through.
Why? Why wasn't the education system favorable to you? The education system can be very difficult for young men because, like, it doesn't really, sitting still for a long time isn't exactly a skill that young men possess. A lot of times they're very angsty and want to move around a lot. Right, but what are you talking about? What's like, you guys, dude, these people, it's too terminally online. I'm just telling you, offline, this shit is not happening the way that you're trying to propose that it's happening. It's just not. You know, it's hard to take so fucking seriously from people who fall for it, especially grown men. If you're like 15 and you fall for it because your entire life is TikTok because you were socially, socially, you know, you're inept. Because you were socially inept. You fucking grew up during COVID. I get it. I understand why you believe these things. But like, you're a fucking grown-ass man playing into the shit. It's embarrassing.
You can kind of see why they're angry and resentful.
I mean, I totally agree why they're angry and resentful. And this, again, gets back to a point. Diagnosis is easy. Prognosis and cure is hard.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree that the sort of wokeism of the past 20 years has created, for example, the Fuentes movement. I mean, I talked about that openly.
Wokeism? What the fuck?
On the show on Monday and in the piece that I wrote for the Wall Street Journal, is that basically this sort of woke left idea that white Christian men in particular were the scourge of the earth and thus had to be extirpated from public life.
Wokeism, guys.
Or at least disadvantaged in public life by the sort of Ibram X. Kendi. The only way to fix the injustices of the past is to engage in injustices in the present. Like, I can see why that would drive a sort of white Christian identitarianism. I think that in order for that identitarianism to take place, it can't really be a Christian identitarianism because Christianity, you know, last I checked, and again, I'll let others who are more expert in this topic than I speak to this, is a system that distinguishes neither Jew from Greek nor slave from master. Right? I mean, the idea.
What he's trying to say is like, hey, guys, keep me in the loop. Let the Jews be part of the loop too. That's what he's trying to say here.
Is that all are equal in like, it's about individual.
It's just like, dude, listening to these things is that like everything is the left's fault. There's no accountability for these people. Like, at all. There's no accountability for any of the things that they've said or they've done. It's hopeless. I don't even know if it's worth talking about. Every single time it's like, yeah, there's this thing that's rising up and it's really bad. It's the left's fault. Okay, that's nice. Okay, great. Like, that's where we're getting here. It's always the left's fault. There's no accountability for the right. They don't have to be held to task for any of the dumbass shit that they've said or done. It's just all the left's fault. Always, I guess.
Equality was one of the key functions of Christianity. So you have to come up with kind of a pseudo-Christianity where, you know, certain people are superior to other people. And I think that that's a really negative thing, which is why you've seen some systemic immunity to it among more traditional Christian groups, actually. But I think that the move that you see, it is understandable, but the normal curative to woke should be meritocracy. And that's a hard argument to make these days.
Meritocracy? Wait, sorry. What is he saying?
The move that you see, it is understandable, but the normal curative to woke should be meritocracy.
So meritocracy, government or the holding of power by people selected on the basis of their ability. Like, yeah, I agree with that, but that's the problem. And see, this is one of those like big issues where he's like, oh man, there was this big movement to vilify white men and blah blah blah. And like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that like online some things didn't get like annoying and cringe and toxic. Sure, 100%, I agree with that. But then at the same time, dude, like, you know, DEI used to only exist for fucking white people. If you were white, you got a job. That was how things were back then. Okay? And that's why affirmative action policies took place in the first place. Meritocracy is kind of a lie. You know, like meritocracy is to an extent a lie. You know, we're trying to get there. Implementing some kind of affirmative action, unfortunately, is what's kind of needed to get to a point of, you know, some level of meritocracy. Realistically speaking, whether you want to believe it or not, you know, is it perfect? No, of course not. It's never perfect. But that's like the reality. But you're sitting here like, oh, we need a country that's based on like ability. Like, yeah, sure, I agree. And like, how many people don't really want that? You know, how many people don't want there to be like a stage that allows for that to exist?
And that's a hard argument to make these days. Right? I mean, again, because meritocracy has an inherent suggestion, which is if you don't succeed, maybe it's at least partially or largely your fault. And that's a very hard sell to people. That's a very hard sell.
Do you think...
I think that's a good way to look at things. The more blame you can put on yourself, the more you can change. And I think that's a very productive, positive thing.
Maybe. I don't know if I believe this. I'm doing a Tucker here, but
Yeah.
I don't... Do you think that this might actually be quite a healthy thing for the right, actually, in that you had a kind of anti-woke coalition that included a lot of people that maybe didn't really know what it was for. And what's being negotiated now is what does it mean to be on the right? What does it mean particularly to be a conservative? And what are the principles that you guys actually stand for? And which are the principles that can't be included in that code?
Yeah, I mean,
That's actually a really good question. Unironically, that's actually an excellent question. Because the idea, and by the way, it makes sense. The idea is like, hey, listen, the conservatives became the party of intellectual power for a very long time, or not a very long time, for a while. But you guys kind of, it was really more of like, hey, we're just we're best friends regardless. That was a lot of it. But there wasn't really any like meaningful, intelligent policy fleshed out to be like, okay, like what is good versus what is bad, and like what do we actually believe, and so what you would do is like, hey, you have some differences of opinion, and you guys start to debate it, socially, one-on-one, the social, it's like, okay, well, okay, here's what I believe here, here, okay, we have to get more defined on this. Yeah, I think it's a decent question.
I mean, I think that the conversation has been ongoing as long as I've been alive, right? I mean, these are battles that were had between traditional conservatives or neocons and realists and isolationists. I mean, these are ongoing battles all the time. But I think that what is fascinating about the current moment is that typically, movements tend to follow leaders. If there's a conservative movement, it turned into a Trump movement. President Trump is non-ideological. President Trump contains multitudes. He has sort of instincts and impulses in many cases rather than a thoroughgoing ideology. And so roiling under the surface...
He's impulsive and he has no like actual plan. That's what he's trying to say. But he's trying to say it nicely because he knows he can't piss off the Trump crowd now, especially.
The Trump presidency has been a lot of these divisions for a while.
Fuentes already did that. He already said fuck Trump, so... he doesn't feel like he can do it now,
And, I think that there are a lot of people who are planning for the post-Trump era and they're trying to make moves right now in order to sort of consolidate their viewpoint in the post-Trump era. So I think some of this is absolutely natural.
Okay, so what he's saying is that like people who disagree with Trump right now are just trying to be politically conscious and have something to move towards in the future. So he's like basically saying if you if you disagree with Trump, it's probably just an optics strategy, which might be true. Could be, But I actually, I think Nick Fuentes probably actually doesn't like Trump. That part is probably authentic, so.
But,
he's been pretty consistent about it for quite a while. This isn't like a new thing. He's talked about it consistently.
I think that if we're going to have these conversations, we ought to be at least honest about what it is that we believe.
When we launched our first bit of trigonometry merch...
Chad, do I need to get my own fucking, like... do I need to get my own fucking, like... I need to get sponsorships. Guys, I need a sponsorship. Brought to you by... What would you even buy? Like, what do I even buy? That's a problem, too. What do I even buy? What do I even sell?
Very quick.
I got to open my own brand up. That's what I need to do. I need to open up my own brand, make my own business, and then sell the fuck out of it. I think I'm going to call it Theodore Stinky. I don't know. I don't know. What am I going to call it, guys? Open a clothing brand. What do you think I should do?
Quickly, how important 5-star reviews are. We found out the hard way how
That wasn't like a criticism of... I was trying to be funny, but it didn't really land. All right, Alex, don't tell Ethan I said that. Okay. I need more free stuff from him. Okay.
Shipping is so often just as important as a product itself. And if you've ever tried to manage shipping yourself, you know how messy it gets.
Whoa.
That's why smart businesses use ShipStation.
Shipping is actually very messy. Like some people ship Deku and Bakugo. I'm like, that's kind of gross. That's going to get messy. You know what I mean? Me personally, I ship All Might. And that bitch with the big titties. Miss Midnight. All right.
ShipStation brings all your orders from Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Shopify, or your own site into one easy dashboard. You can compare over 200 carriers, print labels in bulk, and save up to 90% on shipping rates.
Whoa!
ShipStation helps you avoid errors, ship faster, and actually...
Bro, I'd be all over a Dr. Squash sponsorship. Are you fucking kidding me?
Earn those 5-star reviews. It's why 98% of businesses that try ShipStation stay for life, and some grow up to 40 times faster. Delight your customers and get rave reviews with cheaper, faster, and better shipping. Upgrade to ShipStation today to get a 60-day free trial at ShipStation.com and use code TRIGGER. There's no credit card or contract required, and you can cancel anytime. That's ShipStation.com, code TRIGGER. And one of the things that I think that we're not really addressing at the moment, which I find very interesting...
Yeah, me too, man. I thought it very interesting, too.
...is the use of humor. Now, one of the things...
Use of humor?
...that wokeism did is they clamped down on humor. Any type of humor that wasn't broadly in their worldview was seen as oppressive, racist, patriarchal. Pick the term, and you were probably accurate. But what people like Fuentes and other people have done so well, in my opinion, is they've tapped into that.
For sure.
Where people felt like you couldn't laugh at this joke or that joke. And Fuentes has just opened the door and gone, you know what? Let's say the retard word as
Whoa, dude, you can't say that.
many times as we want. And
Let's say the... You just sound so awkward saying it. What the hell are you doing? You sound like Mario Judah saying the N-word, bro. What the fuck's the matter with you? I mean, dude, okay. Sure, the left don't be having any humor.
whatever else.
I guess. But the fucking people on the right get so triggered all the time when I make a joke, dude. Like, I'll talk about the magical apple curse, and I get fucking people melt the fuck down. You know, if a conservative says they think that trans people are crazy and say, like, horrible, disrespectful shit, and they're like, haha, this is just dark humor, because dark humor to them is just being edgy and hating minority groups. But if I fucking sit here and I go like, hey guys, you believe in a magical apple curse, all of a sudden, like, I'm the fucking bad guy. It's funny. The magical apple curse is funny. It is a funny thing to say. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. It's funny. Okay? Stop pretending. We're not going to pretend that it's not funny. All right? It's funny. Sorry.
Else it may be, and it's going to be a free-for-all. And when you've been constrained for that long, that feels really invigorating.
Well, I do think that there's a transgressive side of the conservative movement right now that's really just enjoying, like, flexing in the new freedom of the Trump era. I think that's for sure true.
The new freedom of the Trump era. We do be loving slurs, baby.
We love saying that. We love saying slurs.
There's definitely true though, because you see like dumbass motherfuckers like was it Brittany Venti and other people, I think some girl named Lily, that are like, yeah, we can blackface again. Okay, that's crazy. Why do you want to do blackface? That's wild. You know, I don't know why that's the one you wanted back. I understand saying the R slur, I guess. Me personally, I just like to be a nice guy. You know, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna fucking lie to you. I like using slurs. You know, but I'm an old man. I'm 35. I'm trying to be more sensitive to people. You know, it's one of those things where when you say bad words, it feels good. It makes you feel powerful. Especially when you're angry and somebody's being a fucking asshole in traffic. It feels good to use a bad boy word. But, you know, you get a little older and it's like, you know, this is immature. It's a young man's game to use slurs, especially when they're playing video games. You know, I got to delete those video games. I'm getting too old to be yelling at fucking League of Legends. You know what I mean? It's just that's a young man's game. But, like, you guys make it seem like it's a huge deal. And, like, people weren't saying it for how long? I mean, people wouldn't shut the fuck up saying the R slur. What are you talking about? Like, especially online. Well, I guess I think this is in online spaces, but like, you know, you have all these fucking like politically left people, streamers that are just like won't shut the fuck up about saying the slurs. So I don't know what you're talking about.
And the danger, I think, is that, you know,
Me, when I try to be funny, but like, you know, I just know how to use slurs. Ooh.
Chesterton, I think, was talked about the idea that actual authentic belief systems can be destroyed with an ounce of cynicism, and basically trollery is a form of cynicism very often. And so, yeah. Funny is funny, but it is also true that funny doesn't build things.
Whoa.
Funny tends to destroy things. Funny does not tend to build things.
Okay, that was weird. Sorry, I think I cut out. Funny tends to destroy things? What the fuck does that mean? Like, usually jokes are like a fun little... Oh, I get what he's saying. Is because you can destroy somebody's like political ideology with silly little humor. It just destroys things. But it usually provides entertainment to people. What?
Things. Funny tends to destroy things. Funny does not tend to build things. And I think
The jonkler destroys things.
that the impulse toward humor it can be awesome. We all love to laugh. We all like a good joke.
I'm gonna be real with you, Ben. I don't think you like to laugh. I don't think Ben Shapiro's a laugh. I don't think he's a laugher. I don't think he's somebody that enjoys a good ha ha, a good hee hee. You know, not at all. Whoa.
And there are many different types of jokes, right? I mean, there's jokes that poke fun at human frailty, and then there are jokes that are designed to legitimately tear other people down and harm them. And they're not all
Those things seem like they're the same, no?
quite the same. But you know, I think that one thing that's happened is that terrible views very often are shielded with this sort of like, well, am I joking? Am I trolling? Am I not really trolling?
I never smile.
And the answer is, if the outcome is the same, then I'm not sure why I'm supposed to pretend that it's okay just because you're joking when you sometimes say it and sometimes don't.
And that's a really profound point, because we've seen...
What the fuck are you talking about? He's just saying the shit that the left has been saying for how long? That jokes can be really hurtful, and that people will often use humor as a vehicle to say something they actually believe, while saying, "Hey guys, it's just a joke." Now, I agree with these things, but funny how everything changes.
See more and more comedians come on and give, public opinions about subjects as complicated as the Middle East and
yeah, that's comedians have always been like people who have been able to talk about these topics in general. That's kind of like the cool thing about comedians, right? Is that they get to talk about really like topics but through a funny lens, so people are more likely to listen to them. So I don't know what this. You guys do the same thing. You guys are a political comedy group.
the war.
Yeah,
in
there's
Russia.
this clown nose on, clown nose off thing that's been going on with the entire comedian world really since Jon Stewart, and I think that's really
Jon Stewart. I fucking love Jon Stewart.
I think that's bad. I think if comedians
Guys, Jon Stewart's bad. Well, do you know that Jon Stewart was the original embarrasser of Tucker Carlson? Probably would like him then. And he's Jewish. Ben. Incredible.
want to be comedians, they should be comedians, and then we should stop pretending that they are experts in foreign policy or
just because you're a funny guy doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation about foreign policy,
domestic policy. And if
it's funny because fundamentally what Ben is saying is that certain people should be able to have an opinion on things, and people who are more have more formal degrees and whatnot, and more formally educated should have more of a say on particular topics. It's just interesting that as things shift, the right agrees more with what the left has been saying for how long.
Somebody wants to I make jokes on my show. I'm not a comedian. And so you should take seriously the views that I express as my own views. My problem is when I can't tell what is your view and what isn't. Whoa. And when you hide behind the humor to say, it's not really my view.
Ben, I love you. I'm going to be honest with you. There's very few people who don't understand my humor. I'm very sarcastic. There's a certain group of people who struggle with sarcasm, which is okay. Are we putting together the pieces here? Ben, do you struggle to understand people's jokes?
It's just humor, and then...
Guys, I don't understand if they're making fun of me or not. Please stop doing what you're doing right now. That's what I'm hearing.
And when you're caught, the clown nose goes back on. That just seems fundamentally dishonest to me.
And do you think as well, Trump sort of ushered this in, didn't he? Because the first time we saw him in 2016, I remember watching him in the...
I wouldn't choose Usher. I would choose he Diddy'd this in, because his best friend was somebody that was like Diddy, right? Trump Diddy'd this in.
Debates going...
He's a Diddy blood. Trump's Diddy blooded, dude.
This guy's a comedian because the entire purpose of a comedian really is to be disruptive. It's to disrupt the status quo. And that's very much what Trump did.
I think for sure.
Trump is a comedian, dude. I knew it. He's like the comedian that shot that pregnant woman in the Vietnam. I'm, of course, quoting the movie. Wallace and Gromit. The Watchmen. That was where I was getting there. You guys knew I was getting there. You guys are smart. You guys are smart guys. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
And I think that was the problem that many of us who were sort of traditionally in politics had with President Trump during his first presidential run. And then he got to be president, and you got to see what he did when he was actually president. And
what did he do? What did he do? Oh, right. He got his ass fucked in the midterms because he was such a bad president.
So what I used to say during his first term is, well, now that he's president, I can judge him based on the thing that he's doing, not just the thing that he's saying. And I think most Americans came to that conclusion, right? So
yeah, and that's why they didn't vote him in again. Or excuse me, that's why they voted all the Republicans out of the midterms. So
now
in his first thing, and they're gonna get washed again in the midterms. Trump's doing such a terrible fucking job. They're gonna get washed up, boy.
At the beginning of his presidency, do you remember how every evening news broadcast started with a Trump tweet? Like every single one. It's like, he tweeted this today, and I just can't believe he tweeted this today. And then about 6 months, everybody's like, okay, so he tweeted a thing. Like, cool. And now we don't even pay attention when he tweets a thing, right? And in fact, he has to have it like a sign off. Thank you for your attention to this matter, so we know that he's not trolling, right? But I think that that's because we got to see him in practice. The problem is with people who are in the business of viewpoint. You don't actually get to see what their practice looks like. All you have is the rhetoric. So now
but his practice sucks balls. It's terrible. What are you talking about? Well, Ben will probably like him because he's very pro-Israel. Like, honestly, Trump is a very pro-Israel president. And what's funny is that's what's basically, and again, that's what it is. Like, that's what's making Trump struggle, is because he's pro-Israel. That's it. And he's like, he's losing ground to like anti-Israel sentiment, like Nick Fuentes. That's where the difference in opinion really comes from. It's very interesting. It's like such a small difference in opinion, but like that is really where the differences are. It's because Trump is very strong in his stance of Israel, and like a lot of people on the right, like conspiracy theorists that hate Jewish people, They're not all about that. You can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic.
You're supposed to judge whether when, Nick Fuentes says Team Hitler, does he actually like Hitler or is he just joking about liking Hitler? And
I'm pretty sure he likes him enough. I don't really think that we need to debate the specifics on it. I know like really low IQ people get really upset, but I'm like, hey, he said he liked Hitler. He's probably a Nazi. Like, oh, he's just joking. Okay, I don't care. I mean, like, I don't make that joke. I don't really know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, don't make those jokes.
What is the practical difference between joking about liking Hitler over and over and over and also espousing Hitlerian beliefs and actually just liking Hitler? Like, and at what point does the onus, why is the onus on the viewer as opposed to on him to clarify what it is that he thinks?
Well, speaking of judging people on what they're doing, how do you feel about President Trump's term so far?
I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, he's done a lot of things that I think are great. I mean,
like what?
I think that his foreign policy overall has been very, very good.
Why?
I think that he is justified.
Oh, because he's helping Israel a lot. Okay, cool.
My faith that he was going to be a peace through strength president and not a full-scale isolationist president, as some people seem to think that he was, which I thought was always projection based on his term one. I think that when it comes to domestic policy, obviously closing the border is a massive accomplishment, and he
Not really. I mean, like cutting down on illegal immigration, definitely like a really positive, productive policy. But I don't think closing the border is a very good idea.
He did it essentially the first day, thus falsifying all of the talk about how you need a new piece of legislation in order to do that. I've been very critical of the tariffs. I think the tariffs are uncalibrated and poor economic policy that are not truly designed to achieve the effect that either he wants or that he is seeking. I think that we can go down the list of issues. Overall, I think he's a very effective president in a way that I think many people didn't think that he could be. I mean, he's moving very quickly. He's doing many, many things. Whether you like him or you hate him, there's no question that he has been a transformative figure in American politics. And so on an effectiveness level, he's extremely effective. On a policy level, I would say I agree with probably 75% of what he's doing. And there's 25% I don't agree with. And then there's stuff that I just don't think that he was ever going to do. Whenever people, like, he should rhetorically unify the country. Where have you been for 10 years? I mean, come on. Or he should really be more statesman-like. Like, okay, these are now old debates and they're in the past.
Do you have any concerns around, I mean,
A little too old for Trump, I heard.
we had Sam Harris on the show recently. That episode hasn't gone out yet, but it will. He talked a lot
He looks like he's always going to sneeze.
about the way some of the ICE operations have been conducted, people showing up in masks, not identifying themselves.
Yeah, I think that's disgusting. I think at the very least, if you're going to do these raids, you should show up without a mask on. Hot take, COVID's over. You know what I'm saying, dude?
Arresting U.S. citizens, etc. Did you have any concerns about that?
I mean, I think that we'd have to look at each individual case, and I'm sure I could find cases where I would have concerns. I think that
Just not really willing to talk about them specifically. Okay.
overall, the detention of criminal illegal immigrants, which seems to be largely the people who are being targeted.
Nope, it doesn't. If you are like, oh, if you are here illegally, you're a criminal, like, yes, then you will agree with that. Now, obviously, you shouldn't be here illegally, but I don't think that most people would consider that. They're considering violent criminals. Most people in the United States, they're not necessarily worried about like illegal immigrants that are here trying to work jobs, especially jobs that Americans don't want to do, or legal Americans want to do. So, like, no, that's not the case.
Is a very good thing. I think that you could certainly find cases, I'm sure, where ICE acted badly or where they didn't provide properly for the rights of the people who they are taking into custody, or they got it wrong and arrested somebody who's a citizen when they meant to arrest an illegal
and
immigrant.
since they didn't like engage with the due process, then that allows things like that to happen.
Non-citizen, for example.
And very briefly, because we're running out of time, you have another media engagement we have to run to. We haven't talked about Israel, despite the fact that you're accused of only talking about Israel.
Yes, always.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I was wondering, we got to a point where I thought President Trump achieved an incredible thing, which is
What, a ceasefire? How many of those have we gotten? Oh, fuck, I did it again.
the release of the Israeli hostages. And that was based on the idea, a much broader plan, whose objective was to disarm and dismantle Hamas and secure peace
Hamas.
in a very complicated structure. That hasn't transpired. Are you optimistic that there will be some kind of long-term solution to the Middle East, or is it just going to run for another 70 years?
Well, I mean,
It's just going to keep going, dude. I don't think Trump's going to be able to get anything done, but maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong.
I think that conflicts between radical Islamists and others in the Middle East is likely to continue for the rest of human history. But if you're talking about like the explicit what happened in Gaza issue, I think that the triumph was stage one. Stage 2 was always sort of, the maybe phase of the Trump plan. The reality is that what has happened with the freeing of those hostages, it means that now, Israel is not on tenterhooks, obviously, about living people being held in tunnels. And beyond that, there's sort of a yellow line that's essentially been established in the Gaza Strip that's currently being administered by the IDF, and that eventually is supposed to be transferred over to the control of some sort of international security force. Presumably, there will be vast humanitarian aid in that area. Rebuilding funds are going in. I know people who are actually actively working on construction in that area right now to build housing and all the rest, and maybe turn that into like an actual decent place to live. As far as the area that's sort of the interior of the Gaza Strip that is currently essentially a war between Hamas and a wide variety of sort of clans.
Yeah, some which have gotten, at least historically, funding from Israel. Yeah.
The thing that's kind of ridiculous about this whole war is that the yelling at the IDF about human rights violations, and it's only the IDF's terrible. It's just awful. Well, I noticed that the minute that the IDF pulled out of those areas, Hamas just started pulling people out of their houses and shooting them in the head, and everybody went completely silent about all of that. And now they're saying, well, we certainly can't allow the IDF to go back in there. We have to have an international security force. Well, cool. I mean, I think that the Israelis would love nothing better than for the UAE and the Saudis and the Indonesians to put a security force in there. The question is why precisely those countries would want to do that.
Well, they wouldn't, because they'd all be killed.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
not all, but they would end up in the same position as IDF.
That's right. And so
I
I think that one of the things that's been exposed by the sort of deal at the end of the war is the harsh reality of the Middle East, which is if there is no police force in areas that are governed by terrorists, then terrorists tend to govern those areas. And this bizarre idea that if you just pull out magically, things are going to spring up and replace them. We'll see whether that happens or not. But certainly the Middle East is in a significantly better situation and position than it was before President Trump's late stage intervention in the Gaza war.
Have you been surprised? But
As opposed to his original intervention, which was not very good because he didn't allow Palestine in on the conversation about the direction of their own country with the Abraham Accords.
Ben, by the events and what's happened in the UK surrounding the pro-Palestine demonstrations and the just general anti-Semitism, let's be honest.
I wish I could say that I was surprised. I feel like that's been a long time in exploding. The Islamic population, particularly in areas like London or Manchester, where you have very high levels of Islamic immigration. The history of Europe tends to show that when you have very high levels of Islamic immigration in particular areas, those areas tend to become more lawless, more violent, more anti-Semitic. And that's true across Europe. It's not just true in Britain. It is true in France. It is true in the Netherlands. It's true legitimately everywhere. And the one area where apparently it's safe to be Jewish is Hungary, where they decided that they weren't going to allow mass Islamic immigration into the country and are currently paying, I believe, €1 million a day in fines to the EU in order to maintain their current border status. So, no, I'm not surprised by that at all. I continue to be, I would say bemused at best by the fellow traveling of the left with this sort of red-green alliance that has happened, in which it's like, well, we're all on the same side because we oppose the system together. Well, that may be a convenient coalition for the moment, but I
mean, listen, if you have any any group of like immigrants come in too quickly, it can change the I guess the culture of that area too much too quickly. It's okay that like culture changes as long as everybody's like happy and healthy or whatever. But like, okay, I mean, I don't really live in those countries. I don't know how true it is that there's too much immigration going into those areas. So
I promise you that at the end of this road, there's going to be some pretty significant disagreement.
Absolutely. Ben, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Final question is always the same. What's the one thing we're not talking about that we really should be?
Probably trans people all the time.
I think we actually talked about it. I think that the generalized lack of political voices speaking to the vast opportunity available to young people in America and in the West.
I don't think we're talking enough about how it's young people's fault for their own problems. That's what he's saying.
And their capacity to...
By the way, it's not just young people, it's all people, but okay.
Should get ahead if they make good decisions. That lack is being direly felt, and it's having its ramifications across all of politics, foreign and international.
Well, there was one person who did do that very effectively, and he was taken from us. Do you see somebody else stepping up? Because I guess...
Sorry, what?
Person who did do that.
What?
Capacity to actually get ahead if they make good decisions. That lack is being direly felt, and it's having its ramifications across all of politics, foreign and international.
Oh, Charlie Kirk. Okay.
Well, there was one person who did do that.
The guy who went to college campuses and talked to kids. Yeah, young people who weren't super informed and just lied to them. and like preyed on the good graces of young people to think that like he would actually tell the truth. Is that the person? One who continues like that guy? Okay.
Effectively, and he was taken from us. Do you see somebody else stepping up? Because I guess Charlie was the person who was holding this whole groyping thing at bay in many ways.
That part actually is probably true.
And he
Yeah, maybe. He might because he wasn't too chill on the whole anti-Semitism thing.
a new person needs to emerge for that role, surely.
I mean, I think a lot of people need to emerge for that role. I think one of the big mistakes is thinking that any one person can replace one for one, any one person, but it's going to require a lot of voices to push back what I think are evil
On the radical left.
nefarious views.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thanks so
for
much,
coming
guys.
on.
What is
Head on
also-
over to triggerpod.co.uk
Oh,
where you'll
can't
see
wait.
this.
I worry that activists have been successful in disguising their anti-Jewish sentiments behind a critique of Zionism. Where should we draw the line between criticism of Israel's policies and anti-Semitism?
Whoa, great question, guys. I love that so much for you. All right. Well, that was interesting. Obviously, we can't interact with that, but if you want to go check that out, I guess go ahead. Let me know how it goes. But interesting conversation either way.